books. I'm making sure that everything's operational. Okay. All right. Cool. I think it's working. Give me 1 second. Can you hear me? Okay. Yep, you can hear me. All right. So I'm meaning to go back to do that tactical flamingo digital painting, but I'm not gonna lie. I have been pumping out a lot of computer art recently, and I am suffering from burnout. And I'm talking like from the second I get up to the second like later in the afternoon, almost 12 hours straight of just like digital, digital, digital. Um, so I've been taking a lot of like my downtime by working on my book. This is an old project that I started. It's called a Hellion Rider. I own it through the copyright office. At least book one was published around 10 years ago. And the book was started as a joke between me and a close friend of mine. You know, rest in peace. He unfortunately passed away of stage 4 cancer about 2 years ago. And it's been very hard for me to pick it up because he's the main character of the book. So imagine drawing your friend who passed away over and over and over again. So I'm finally in a better mental state where I can go back and pick up this product. My goal is to, it is 7 books in total, 22 pages each. My goal is to get the book completed before I even try to publish it. I always felt bad that I got the first one out. The second one I was completed, and then my life hits, and sometimes at the strangest points of your life, and I just couldn't. I kept working on it, but I couldn't dedicate myself solely to it. So finally, now around 10 years later, things have slowed down. I have been making a lot of progress this year. This is like one of my main goals for myself this year. I finally rewrote the script for book 5, book 6, and book 7, so that's completed. Right now I'm working on pencils. So I've spent the last month or so. So I'm currently on page 18 out of 22 for book 5. So right now, here is the basic script dialogue that I like to follow. I know everybody's different, so please do not compare my scripts to Marvel or DC. I literally do everything on my books, everything from character design to like layouts, pencils, colors, cleanups. The only thing I do not do is lettering. I passed that along to a good friend of mine. He's a professional letterer for a very, very big company. So I don't want to put him on the spot, so I'm not going to say which company. All I got to say is one of the big poobas. So he's going to help me out, just do the lettering. So I got my budget set to the side so I can pay him when the time comes. So, but yeah, so today I'm going to draw my pencils today. Hey, Nessie. Hey, how are you, dude? I do my best to look over, like, because, you know, when you start drawing, you get on the zone. So I'm going to make sure that I can go ahead and, like, look over and pay attention. All right. So this is pretty much the script that I have. I always tend to start with thumbnailing. I refuse to go into my 11.5 by 17 Bristol board. This is pretty standard. Without me first thumbnailing, figuring out the best shots. And even then sometimes, hey, what's up, Gun Bunny? And sometimes I will do my best to, I'll do version 1, version 2, and even when I'll be right here, right on the Bristol, I will change my stuff. Now, to talk about some of the stuff that I usually keep on me, I like to keep my stuff analog as much as I can because that means if I'm bored at work and there's nothing going on, I can take that with me. And since I'm the illustrator for my company, they're like, oh, you're practicing. It's like, yes, and that's I keep up my speed. It's also I could take it anywhere. I know people like to use pads, but I mean, the problem with pads is that once you run out of power, then you're kind of dead in the water. Some of the basic tools that I use, sharpener. I know, super fancy. I like to use a metal ruler with the cork in the back. I tend to use the 18-inch ruler, especially since this is 11 by 17. I like the cork back because it keeps it from slipping, but I also have like a 25-cent one. Yeah, no, I can show you guys a couple pages here shortly. Some of the other stuff that I do like to use is a high polymer eraser, and this is Prismacolor Color Erase. This is indigo blue. I don't know why the camera's not focusing on that. And here's the piece de la resistance. This is how I carry my art supplies. Look at this poor little Ziploc bag. Great value, quality. You know, I've never been someone who spends a lot of money on my art supplies because I get very paranoid about the cost. So I like to keep my stuff simple so I can focus on my artwork and not on the cost of my medium. Um, so just to show you guys one of the earlier pages that I started working on, let me go in here. So this is technically my portfolio where I'm keeping this.
Auto shutdown initiated.
And no headphones, you are not.
Auto shutdown canceled.
I don't know. So let me go back over here. Give you a second. Okay. So these are my pencils. I come from a traditional illustration background, and from there I got my bachelor's in computer animation, and then I have my master's in marketing. So I do my best to show this because I'm still kind of working on the setup. So this is actually the intro from page 6. I actually started drawing book 6 instead of book 5. So, but this kind of gives you an idea of my pencils. Normally, it used to be my average on a 7 to 8 hour shift. I could pump about a page and a half on these. But I slowed down a little bit because, again, you got to go where the money is. So I've switched a lot from animation. Unfortunately, when the industry collapsed back in 2008, and I don't mean like it collapsed, it just a lot of the work went overseas. So I had to switch to something that put food on the table and a roof over my head. So I am a illustrator, animator that has turned to a graphic designer out of necessity. So that's the best way for me to say this. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what I got going on here. Love Dag Tag, best quality art bag. Yeah, I know, right? All right. So right here, let's talk about what I'm planning to do. So in panel 1, it has Ralph. He's one of like the supporting characters. He's in the foreground. And I'm going to darken this up so you guys can see. And I'm one of those people that always love thumbnailing because it saves you a lot of time. There's nothing worse than you drawing out everything just to find out you did horribly wrong. Okay, so right here, I always plan for my dialogue. So right here you see my script. I have captions and then I have the dialogue itself. So right here, in my mind, I'm like, okay, the caption goes here, and then his dialogue is going to go right in this area. So what you'll notice is as I'm drawing, there seems to be a lot of dead space. And it's not that I'm trying to be lazy. I just kind of learn along the way that there's no point drawing details that are going to be covered by speech bubbles. So right here, what I'm doing is, this is my starting point right here. And this will take me to the dialogue, which will lead me to the character that's talking. The speech bubble is going to lead you down, and then the characters right here are looking, and they're still leading you down to the next panel down. Okay? So from here, then you're going to have a continuation of the dialogue. So here's this character here. This is Ralph. These are incidentals. Incidentals are just like filler characters. You'll see them like in animation. Like if you watch The Road to El Dorado or Emperor's New Groove, all the people from the city that they're not main characters are just kind of walking by. Those are known as incidentals. Or if you want to go into gaming terms, they are non-playable characters. Okay, so right here you see Ralph, and he is talking on his device. Okay, and right here he is standing in front of a truck. I believe this is a military style. What was it? It was an 1120. I wrote it down because I'm really bad at this. I forget some of my models. So it's like a 1290, I think is the name of the vehicle. Let's see where I write notes all over my scripts. That's why I like to like oh man. Okay, let me go over here because I wrote it down. What was the name of the vehicle? And that's why I love doing these comic books because it forces me to draw stuff that I normally would have not drawn. See, this is me laying out the house on the earlier scene, so I tend to keep my scripts, thumbnails. Let's see. Yeah, what's the name of that vehicle? Holy crap. I'm gonna have to look it up. It's like a military, I think it's like a 1290, M1290. And then there's an M939, which are in the background. They're pretty much like heavy duty military vehicles. I'll have to pull up a reference here soon because I use them a lot. I use a lot of references. Yeah, see, it's actually an 1120. See, and that's why I love doing notes. So, M1120 military vehicle. And I'll be the first person that will tell you, use your references, use your references, use your references. Anybody who tells you it's stupid for you to use references, they're an idiot. And the other vehicle that I use is a M939, which is an older
Auto
vehicle.
shutdown initiated.
Good God, headphones.
Auto shutdown canceled.
Shut up. Okay. I bought these headphones and I don't know why, unless I'm watching like playing video games, it just wants to auto shut down. So I apologize for that. It's something I'm trying to figure out how to turn off. Okay. So right here, he's standing here. I'm going to be seeing part of this is an M939 vehicle. And it's going to be part of it. And then right here, then we're going to have a character who's responding. This is Lou. And I already have their designs done ahead of time. So he's talking right here. His speech bubble is going to go here, which is going to continue to lead my eye down to the next panel to her. And I'm going to draw her kind of like an angle so that way this engine, she's riding like a rocket ship at this point, or think of the Rocketeer back in the day, and I'm sure some of you guys might be a little too young for this. So it's like my version, my post-apocalyptic version of like the Rocketeer. Okay, so this right here is going to break the panel, so that's going to lead my eye down to this panel here. All right, let me go back to my chat so I can see if anybody's talking. Yeah, if it was self-destructing warning, I missed that. But yeah, The Rocketeer was a great movie. It should be. If you have Disney Plus, you should be able to see it because it is Disney property. All right, and then right here you have one more shot where you see her flying from above. And then this is the Hellion Rider, and then this is another character named Helen. So this is V, that's Helen, this is Lou, this is Lou. And then right here, I'm going to continue. She has a pretty big speech bubble right here. And that's going to continue down. And right here, that's going to continue. So here's how the flow is. And I'm going to switch colors real quick so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. So starting point, this right here, viewer, is going to lead me here. Down to the speech bubble, this leads me down. And then he's still looking in this direction. This still leads me down. The rocket still leads me down, the speech continually leads me down, and then the angle of this continually leads me down all the way to the end of the page that goes to the next page. When you're doing your panels, it's important that you have good flow. And like I said, I apologize, this thing is not focusing very well. See if you guys can see that a little bit better. Okay, would you focus? Yeah, it's still fuzzy. Boo! God bless technology. I need to get a better camera, but this is all that I could get because of COVID. All right. But it's very important for you to understand your panel flow, because when you're doing these, you will not be there to explain to your audience how to flow through the page. You have to make it as easy as possible for them. So yes, you want to make sure that think of them as super lazy. My eye goes here, goes naturally here, and it flows down. It keeps going from there. So now that I understand what my layout's going to be, I'm going to start doing some of my pencils over here. And I'm a fair believer of fundamentals. Always start by building your basic skeleton structure. In this case, my character is going to be looking off to the side. So that's going to be his cheekbone. You're going to see part of that neck bone sticking, or that big tendon on your neck. That's the stermanostoid. It's so bad I can't even pronounce it. But anyway, so when you turn, you have these two major points on your neck that when you flex one way it pops out, and then you flex the other way it pops out. I'm kind of bad at pronouncing Latin words, I ain't gonna lie. So from here, he is kind of hovering over a desk, or like a CG kind of three-dimensional pop-up kind of desk thing. And his arms are down. He's supporting his weight by putting it on the weight of the edge of the table, which we can't not see at this moment, but that is okay. I tend to draw my characters first, and then from there, I draw the background towards the end. I don't know why I do that. I just do that, but I still keep track of my vanishing points. So for example, right here, I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to track my vanishing point somewhere back here. So as I'm drawing the truck, I can use that as my vanishing point back here. So I always like to set those up. And sometimes they'll be way off the page, but for right now, this works. And sometimes it will be a 2-point perspective. So I might use the second one over here because these characters, there's going to be one right here in the foreground. And they're just going to be looking at whatever he is talking about. And the man has dreadlocks. And he's got like a really beautiful. So have you ever met someone that genuinely like it's from that subculture, when they genuinely believe in like I can't really talk much about it because I don't know much about it, but I met some people in the African American community that they're really deep into like their spiritual stuff, and the dreadlocks is like a big part of it, and they're very immaculate about their dreadlocks, and it's so beautiful. A lot of labor of love. So he has kind of those dreadlocks. So I was trying to make sure I represent them as nice as possible. Okay, so I have the basics. He's looking over, and here is character one. Now you want to make sure you have like some. Make sure the poses are not stiff. Unfortunately, when you're learning, and even me, I would tell myself I am not an expert. I always consider myself a student of the craft because somewhere out there has found a better way to solve a problem. And if the second you start thinking you are dead,
Auto shutdown
Oh
initiated.
my God, so annoying.
Auto shutdown cancelled.
The second that you think that you are the grand poobah of whatever you're doing, you start closing yourself up to new ideas. So it's important to try to stay humble, always keep learning, see how other artists, like I love watching, I just recently bought the ArtStation account. I didn't go pro. I didn't want to. I didn't need to go pro because I'm not going to be selling any of my art, and I can't sell any of my art anyway because of my contract stuff. I just don't have time to produce a lot of my personal stuff like I used to. It's mainly I work on this comic book or I do stuff from work. There's only so many hours in a day. So I'm looking at some basic poses that I see in meetings. There's always someone that has like their arm crossed, someone that might have like their hand in a pocket. These days you have someone with like a cell phone, but I don't want to put that in there. But notice how everything here, this is leading you this way, and even this is still leading you down. Then you're going to have another one here. And they're looking around maybe like a graphic or something here, which I'm going to add later. And that's one of the things that I've kind of tend to do with my comics. I tend to plan, there's stuff that I manually draw, and then there's stuff that I do once I go into Photoshop to do my coloring. I've learned to be very economical. That comes from being, I've been doing art for money since 1998 when I started as a caricature artist. And I'm going to put graphic right here. And I've been doing professional like media stuff like videos, animation, and all kinds of stuff since 2004. I don't have anything super big. I could have, but again, life happened. So I cannot say, yeah, went from college to Disney and all that stuff, because unfortunately I was not dealt the best cards of deck. I had older parents, so I had to take care of them, so that was a priority to me. So I have no regrets, but it still sucks that all my friends are working at these big studios and I'm just kind of doing what I'm doing, but I'm still doing it, so that's what counts. All right, so right here, as you can see, they're all right here, they're staring. Here is my graphic. So that's pretty much panel one, and I just start setting them little by little. Alright, so I'm going to go down to the next panel down here. And notice I'm starting with some of the basics of the bone structure. I start with the circle and oval. That is your standard for... Oh, hold on one second. Someone asked me to post this on my Facebook. Because apparently I forgot to do that. There we go. So that's on there. Cool. All right. Yeah, but I always teach the fundamentals. I've been an adult art educator on and off for a couple years. But I always go with the fundamentals. A circle and an oval. The circle, make sure that you tend to draw the cranium. From there, you tend to figure out what the spine is doing. In this case, this is Ralph, so he has a very confident line of action because he's their boss. If you slouch this way, that means he's not confident or he's injured. If you slouch this way, it makes his chest pop out, which indicates that he is in a very confident situation. The head fits across 3 times, so right here, that gives me the length of his shoulders. And then right here, there I have the shoulder, the socket for his shoulder, and there's the arm. And a lot of people get so worried that they have to draw these like super dramatic like panels, like especially now that we have a lot of media coming out, and there's a lot of heavy anime influences where, like, I mean, people could be cooking and they're freaking, it's like the most epic thing that I've ever seen, and those are fun and everything, but if you actually really observe a lot of the manga, if you really like break it down, they're really just doing really basic mundane stuff. They just happen to add really wide angles so that way it makes it look interesting. Otherwise, it's just a really plain and boring, like just panel. All right, so right here he is talking through a walkie. Yeah, they still have walkie-talkies in the future. Again, post-apocalyptic. So I gotta figure out what the hand is doing. So if you think of a walkie-talkie, what is it doing? So it's coming at an
Auto
angle.
shutdown initiated.
Oh my god, this is so annoying.
Auto shutdown canceled.
I gotta figure how to turn that off. Okay, so you can see there's not a lot of thickness to this phone, but it's gonna be that thick. But you see that my hand tends to wrap. Come on, focus. So my fingers tend to wrap around it. If this was a little thicker, it might be something closer to this, and then my thumb right here is locking onto it. So you're going to see part of the thumb there. There's the walkie. I'm going to draw a rectangle brick. And right here is going to give me the mittens for the hand. The palm is like a rectangle. And I'm not sure how clear you guys can see that because, again, I don't know why I just cannot focus. Okay, and then we're going to over-exaggerate the pose a little bit. Not by much. But yeah, when you pick up your phone, on average, your elbow tends to go from the base of your rib cage to kind of lines up with like your nipples, and it's coming right towards you. So that gives you that. And then back here, I got the vehicle. So he is actually standing in front of an M939, which is, again, it's one of the older military trucks that you see from, like, think of like Desert Storm, think of like Vietnam Korea era, think of those. So this right here is kind of going to give me an idea of where he is standing in relation to those and how tall he is. So he is a very tall character, but still these trucks tend to be pretty big. That's why they have like some climbing steps and stuff. And then you guys have been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. Just curious, are all the comics drawn in 3-panel format, or is there a set amount of panels or genre? No, this is not a 3-panel. This is actually a 4-page panel that I'm drawing right here. Everybody's got their style. I tend to draw kind of more cinematic because I've done a lot of storyboarding for different projects for animation and live action. So that's the way that I like to draw. And if you ever look at a lot of European comics, that's how they tend to approach their stuff. Very, very dramatic, very lighting based. That's just the way that I like to do it. But I just like to keep my stuff fairly simple and mainly have the story driving it across. So again, because it's just me doing everything, I gotta be economical because otherwise I would never finish this gosh darn book. So it's not sad, but you know, I gotta be real with myself. I only have so many hours of the day, and I really want to make sure I finish this by the end of the year. So that kind of gives me the rough setup for the next one. And again, I don't worry too much about the detail here because he's going to be talking and there's going to be dialogue here, and then we might see a couple other things going on. but he's the main focus and just going to continue down to there. All right, now I need to go back to one of my references that shows her in her costume. So this right here goes down to Lou. So this is panel 3, what I agreed on. And I'm trying to keep my language really clean today, guys. I think my sister, she's going to have little kids watching this today, so I'll do my best to keep my vocabulary as polished as possible. I know I tend to cuss a lot when I'm playing games. So, but today I'll do my best. If I know there's little ears, I do my best to stay as polished as possible. Okay, so right here, this would be Lou. She's riding on that kind of Rocketeer kind of thing. Okay, and she is kind of looking forward. So right here, now we're going to have some crazy foreshortening here. And notice how I'm not making this too thick because I would like to keep my lines as clean as possible. So I'm just kind of quickly, lightly roughing it out. But I'm still keeping track of my volume. So here's her shoulders. That is her rib cage. And there's going to be some foreshortening in here. So it might look a little weird, but it makes sense. So there's shoulder 1, shoulder 2. There's cylinders going down because she's flying towards us. So there's some crazy foreshortening here. There's the elbow back here, elbow over here. And then this comes right at us. All right, and right here we have our hands, and it's going to bleed into the next panel. Again, some of these I kind of change as I go, and that's totally fine by me. It makes it fun. I'm very fortunate that this is a personal project, so it allows me to experiment. But I do like to break the panel a lot. It's just a personal preference. It just, to me, it just doesn't seem as everything is stuck in here. Okay, and so there is the hand. And she is flying like this thing, and it's kind of like like a controller or like a switch. So these fingers are gonna wrap around, and the thumb is right around here, and she is pressing on a button. And you're gonna see me struggle with hands. After all these years, I still struggle with hands. And I dare you to show me an artist that doesn't struggle with hands or did not struggle with hands at some point. And the one that don't struggle with hands, they will tell you they practice that so much so that way they wouldn't struggle with it. Okay, so this is the main body. Okay, and pretty much what this is she is looking. So here's the camera. And she is looking forward. So there's the chest, there's the hip, there's the thigh, there's the calves, there's the foot. Okay, and her arms are doing this. So she's coming down, and they're doing this. And then the camera is right here, looking from this point of view. So that's pretty much what this angle here is. And then I'm going to try to exaggerate it. I'm looking at my reference. So her pack is kind of like a box, and then she's got a band that goes here, some heavy duty. If you ever seen paratroopers jumping out with their parachutes, they have a lot of straps for very good reasons. Not only do they have a parachute, they have a reserve parachute, and it's strapped. So if you
Auto shutdown initiated.
Oh my god.
Auto shutdown canceled.
That's gonna get old real quick, and I apologize, guys. I'll figure that's gonna be on my to-do list. In fact, I'm gonna put that right now. It's brand new headsets, and I still haven't figured it out. See, this is my list of errands. Turn off auto shutdown on headsets. This is how I keep myself busy over the weekend so I don't slack off. I'm not gonna lie, yesterday I slacked off, and some days you need that. Some days you kind of need to stop, and you need to like just don't do anything that's work related. Don't it's just like when you're doing fitness and you need to take a break. You sometimes need to do that with art, and it's otherwise you burned out and then you don't finish doing what you're doing. It's kind of like fitness. you could try to work out 7 days a week, but if you don't give your body a chance to heal, you're gonna start going backwards, and your technique is gonna get more sloppy, and you're not gonna be as motivated because you're literally just keep beating your body down, beating it down, beating it down, and you're not giving it time to heal. And this kind of the same thing goes with art. It's good to kind of walk away, and people's like, oh, if I stop drawing, then people are gonna get better than me, and you know what? That's fine. That's fine that there's other people that are better than me. That inspires me to try harder. But art is a very mentally strenuous thing. A lot of people don't realize this. For me, I'm not just planning the panel flows. You guys getting to see a little bit of the stuff here. But I'm planning the panel flow, what this is going to look like, what the body's doing at this point. Does it look good? All kinds of stuff is going through my mind. So as you can see, this is now pretty close to the thumbnail. Okay, as you do your planning, this right here gives me space for the dialogue. So it's coming from here, this is dripping you down. Right here, there's more dialogue. This is breaking this panel here. This hand is breaking the panel down here, and that's totally cool because I want my audience to be moving down the flow here. And let's go to panel 4. And you're going to see me keep going up, going down, going up, going down. And that's fine. And that's fine. That's what I want. Now, I got to be careful right here because, as you can see, there's a bunch of little dashes here on the page. This right here on the outside, and you ever get some of these pages, they'll tell you what they are. So you can see right there, that's the bleed area. And I know, sorry that the camera won't focus. Focus. Anyway, so that's the bleed area. And then right here, you have kind of like your work safe area. And then right here is where you want all your action to happen in this dotted line. So most of my dialogue will be pretty much in here. And I try not to put a lot of my action out here because depending, especially back in the day, depending on the publisher, this will get cut off. And I would say do not go past. Like, you could draw little stuff like this that's not important at this point, but try not to go past this because right here's the folding point of your comic book right there. So you want to kind of keep it within that area right there. All right, hold on. Let me think something real quick. Okay, now let's go ahead and go to the next panel. All right. So right here is going to be from the top view. So I have I have to put space for my other characters as well. So circle, oval, and it's going to be for the top point of view. Her neck is right there. Okay, so that pretty much gives me her chest cavity. And it's always really important to figure out the basics. Sorry, can you guys not see that? Yes, you guys cannot see what I'm working on. There we go. Okay. So it's always very important for you to figure out what your bone structure is doing. I lost track of how many times I see people draw stuff, and I'm not an anatomy Nazi, but sometimes it is just so bad. And I know what it is. They don't want to study their anatomy, so what they do is they'll grab a couple photos, copy it, and slap it together, and then it looks like the character is in like 2 or 3 different perspectives, and it makes no sense at all. And they're like, I don't understand why it looks bad. I'm like, because you don't understand proportion. You don't understand how the human body works, and you're just copying what other people are doing and slapping it together, and it shows. You cannot fudge like good art. People can tell how much you understand and how trained you are by like looking at the way that you handle your lines. It tells a lot about your training. Most professional illustrators, animators will tell you they have spent many hours studying anatomy, many hours sitting at the zoo studying animals, many hours studying buildings and normal people. And then from those studies, they understand basic motion, they understand how the body works, and they just kind of go from there, and they build up that mental library, and they can go from there. All right, let me see if I can do something about this, about the quality of this video. Let me see. I doubt it, though. File, settings, video, No, that's as good as I can get it. I'll keep playing with it, guys. It's one of those things that, I'm still learning. I don't do streaming for full-time stuff. I just kind of do it for fun here and there. I just like to be a little bit versed on it. Never stop learning. You never know when it's going to come in handy. So definitely never stop learning. Okay, so right there, and then so she is flying above, way high. She's probably like about, I don't want to say 100 meters, maybe about 50 meters up, which is about 150 feet. And from her view, she could still see. So right here's Vasquez in his Hellion Rider, and back here is going to be Helen. And right now they're just little specks, and that's totally fine. And then right here, there's room for the dialogue, and then that will lead you to the next page. So far, this is what I got right now. So that gives me my basic layout. And again, I always like to check before I move to the next step right here. Okay, so there's space for my caption. Right here, there's my dude. There's going to be a graphic here. That's space for the dialogue. And then here's the 3 other incidentals looking at him, and everything's looking at the speech bubble, and it's leading you down to the next panel. So from here, he continues. Now notice how I keep him. If you start a character on the left, this is a basic rule. It's called the 180 rule in cinematics, and it's also carried in storyboards and comics. If you bounce the camera around too much and your character's flipping, flopping, and there's no reason for it, you go to disorient your audience. Sorry that my hand keeps moving around. So if the character starts to the left, keep him to the left. If your character starts on the right, switch him to the right, unless you're given a sequence that helps your character move around between the left and the right. Like maybe at one point we're in front of the table, but the next shot we're behind the table, and you're making clear that your audience understand where they are at. And then from here, this continues. Again, even though this is breaking the panel, this is leading me down. So the speech bubble is going to continue, and it's still leading me down. And then this is viewing, and then there's going to be more speech bubbles here. And then there's the hand, and it's going to lead me down to here. And as you can see, we can see the visuals of them on the ground, and then the dialogue can continue and going to go to the next page. So, yeah. So now that I have this, I can go ahead and I'm going to pull up my references on my computer. And I'm going to... So as I continue, I keep my script nearby. Always read your script ahead of time. Again, this is why I love reading it the first time and then thumbnailing through it. Also, make sure you have your characters' designs with you. This is a unique project that I'm kind of deciding on the spot sometimes because I prepared certain things and then suddenly I realize, oh crap, I don't have a design for this character. So, okay. So right here, so I have the face. So normally your eyebrows tend to line up with the top of your ears. Okay. Ralph tends to have kind of like a notch in his nose, and he is from African descent. So there's certain features that kind of go with that ethnicity. And again, I like these projects because it forces me to draw different kinds of people, different types of vehicles. I'm not very good at drawing vehicles. So this forces me again.
Auto shutdown initiated.
I thought I got it.
Auto shutdown canceled.
Annoying. Okay. So now right here, he's looking at the side. So it's not going to be, a lot of people tend to draw an almond. That's incorrect. If you're looking at it from the side, it's going to be half the size there. And then in this panel, he is talking. So you want to make sure that your character has an opening, indicating that he is talking to the characters over here. Okay. And he has kind of very manly features. He's got a very square jaw, and as I'm going through, notice how I'm kind of eliminating those things. And I do erase a lot. It's not a big deal. And then he also has like a beard. It's kind of, have you ever seen someone that's from African American descent or African descent? Their beard is not like a straight beard. Some of them tend to be kind of curly. So he's got like 3 little like braids down here, and they tend to be kind of curly right there. So I try to keep that consistent. He does have a scar, but it's on the other eye. It's not on this eye. Yeah, please make sure you're tracking any scars or things that should be stay consistent. Continuity is very important. I'm not sure, some of you guys might be too young. There was a movie called Robin Hood Men in Tights, and there was a king, and the king had this mole that if you pay attention throughout the movie, it tend to migrate. And even at one point, the reporter's like, "Sir, I don't mean to be rude, but wasn't your mole on this side of your face?" It's like, "I got a mole," and it just the mole just kept migrating. It was so funny. At least to me, it was funny because I'll be catching that in some films where they'll be drawing, or I'll be watching some animation, and then they had a wardrobe change, and then they didn't follow through in the wardrobe change. So so it kind of makes me laugh. Okay, so right now I'm just drawing the basic shape of the head, and you want some volume because right here is the cranium, and then the hair, it volumizes right above that. So a lot of people tend to want to draw the hair like Charlie Brown, and I was like, no man, your hair sits on top of your skull, and there's volume to it. Again, I'm doing my best to do, I tend to draw simplified shapes. That comes from my animation background. When you're drawing hair for animation, you have to simplify because the more details you're tracking, the longer it takes, the more it increases the cost. So I tend to try to simplify my shapes. And keep in mind, your audience is intelligent enough that if you draw a hairstyle like this, they know that it's dreads. You don't have to go to the crazy length to show, oh, look, dreads. I'm like, no, they don't need to know that. All right. So that takes that part right there. He does have like a hairband right here, and he does have some of these, part of them kind of come out to here. And again, I'm not too worried about some of these detail because there's going to be a caption box right here. So it's one of those things that I'm like, yeah, I'm drawing it in, but I know it's going to be covered, so I'm not that worried about it. All right, then we have the back of the neck. So the L1, L7, that is part of your, not L1, L7, C1, C7? Can't remember. It's part of your spine. It's like the first vertebrae that attaches to your upper skull, and then the 7th point. I can't think of it right now. I think it's because I've been just really tired recently. I can't think straight. Now from here, he does have an Adam's apple. That is very predominant, so I'm putting that right there. And right here you can see part of his neck. Then you have right here his collarbone. All right, and again, I'm not pulling this out of my butt. This is from years of studying anatomy. Does it still need work? Absolutely. But right now, my goal is to get as much as possible done. And as you can see, I kind of keep going back. And once I get what I want, then I start kind of, making it, clarifying what I'm doing. And he does have thicker lips. It's very predominant in that ethnic group. Also, Asians tend to have very thick, poofy lips. Okay. Now from here.
Auto shutdown initiated.
Annoying. Just
Auto
really
shutdown
annoying.
cancelled.
Okay, so we got that right there. All right, now he's wearing a kind of like a bulletproof vest. So here, right here, you have part of his traps. And then right here's the collarbone. And then right here you have, will be the little widget between like the traps and the shoulder. There's like a little bump here, and then you start getting the deltoids, and the deltoids, they're technically 3 if they're really well defined. You'll see 3. It normally looks like a little heart. And then you have right here, it comes down, then you have the bicep, and then you have the tricep, but that's as far as I need to go. And then right here I have this heavy gear that is, if here's the pectorals, so the gear is kind of landing right on top of it. There is a thickness to it, and I don't want to make this look immaculate because these guys are kind of like rogue warriors, so I don't like to draw them shiny and new. I want it to look kind of rough, so I put little marks right there indicating that this is not new gear. Notice that this right here is not straight, means this gear has seen some action. Okay, then I also have these fixed straps. Have you ever seen like climbing gear? You will see that they have like these fixed straps, and they have like some padding to it because obviously if you're carrying like 60-70 pounds worth of crap, you don't want it to be like grinding right on your shoulder, so they tend to have kind of padding to it, and they tend to be, think of like the straps in your backpack, something like that. So I have that, and then there's also, it's not just front protection, there's also back protection back there. So notice how right here I'm curving around. This indicates that this is overlapping the surface right here, and it's coming right down. So this looks like this is on his body and not glued to his body. And you see this a lot on beginning artists when they're drawing. And I understand. I mean, if you grew up watching shows like Fairy Odd Parents and like Danny Phantom, which tends to use more like a retro art style, they tend to oversimplify how the body fits with clothing because it's part of the style. It's called a retro style. And then right here, I still need to draw the second strap back here. Okay. All right, so now I'm keeping, so he's my center mass. This is my foreground, this is my background, and technically the shoulder is going to stick out a little bit more. So there's, deltoids, bicep, triceps. And you don't have to go wild with all the details, but he does have bandages here that he wears. It's kind of like the rebel signs, you know, in this universe. And there's like a little bandage. Don't ask. I mean, my stuff is not as exquisitely crazy as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which I finally finished the series with like Jotaro, where he's like, he meets his uncle that's younger than him. I really need to download Crunchyroll and finish watching because some of the new memes I'm seeing are just lit. And that show is like a train wreck. Like, I love, like, it's crazy, but you can't stop watching it because each villain gets more outrageous and outrageous and outrageous. I did finish watching Jotaro on Netflix. If you get a chance, please watch that. It was really well done. It's based on like an actual black samurai. And of course, you know, it's Netflix, so they changed a lot in there, so it's kind of modernized for the modern woke demographic. But it was still a very good story. They kept a lot of the modern stuff. Like they have mecha and stuff, which obviously, you know, back when this person was real, they didn't have mecha and stuff. But it's still a very interesting show to watch. The animation's pretty good. However, I have been noticing since Netflix is trying to pump out so much new content that the quality of the animation it's kind of dropping. And if you don't believe me, watch a show called The Way of the House Husband. I love that show. I've seen it like 4 times, but it's practically a very polished animatic. And then they just added like a couple lip syncs here and there, but there was a scene where you have the characters walking, and it was just a layer literally moving left and right. And I'm like, what the? Are you serious? Like, is this passable for animation? Because I've been doing this. I've been putting way too much effort into too much stuff, and but the context of the show was so well done. Like the story is so funny. You kind of let it go, and it kind of adds to the charm of it. So I was like, you know what? Whatever. But yeah, no, so that was good. And then obviously, you know, Castlevania came out. I watched that. And then I finally got to see the first movie from Berserk. I know it's been on Netflix for a while. I don't know why, I just did not care. But unfortunately, you know, the creator recently died. Literally, he died working, which kind of makes me think about my life a little bit. That's why I think I take breaks now because I don't want to die on my easel working on stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much my first panel right there. This is my first dude, or my first character. That's Ralph looking over to the side. And again, these guys, they're no spring chicken. I don't like to draw 20-year-olds, commanding the world. This guy's actually like in his late 30s, um, late 30s, early 40s. Um, but if you ever if you ever have a lot of friends that are African American descent or they have very dark pigmentation, when you see like the relatives, you'll learn that the darker your pigmentation, the younger looking you stay in the longer time period. Like I met guys who are like almost 60 and they look like they're in their 40s because the pigmentation just protects them. And then you have more people of European descent that they're like, and I know because I used to draw caricatures at a theme park. I'll have a girl that'll be like, she looks like she's 27 and she tells me she's 16. I'm like, oh. But of course the fact that she was already smoking at 16 and probably been doing it for a while did not help much either. So yeah. Let me get some incidental characters here. Alright, so one of the characters is going to be this dude here. I'm going to draw kind of like a leaner guy. Okay, so I'm going to take it back to like my high school years. So he's got the sides of his head shaven. Elongated features.
Auto shutdown initiated.
Oh my god, that's so annoying.
Auto shutdown cancelled.
And I keep clicking on it, guys. I get into the groove and then I forget. Sorry. Notice how I'm just kind of cleaning out as I'm going through this. Okay, so now from here. So there's my eyebrows. Yeah, so funny story. The bottom of your nose, on average, tends to line up with the base of your ears, and your top of your eyes, so your eyebrows tend to line up with the top of your ears. And if you don't believe me, go to your mirror right now and then kind of like put your finger on your eyebrow and then slide it to the back of your face, and you can see what I mean, that they tend to kind of line up with each other. Okay, so we got this. This is a character that showed up earlier in this book. He was an incidental, but he was the one that was closest to him, so I'm trying to keep this as consistent as possible. And I tend to have an interesting style. My main influences when I was a kid, because I'm going to be 40 in a few weeks. I am a big Disney kid. And it's funny because it was like, you draw manga. I'm like, I do not draw manga. I do grow up watching some manga back in Toonami. Some of the first anime that I saw was Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. So to today, my hero Yui is my sociopath husband Fu. He'll be my first and forever my first, followed by Sek Marquis. That's where I saw some of the early Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. God, what else was on around that time period? Was it Cardcaptor Sakura that was on there at that time? Anyway, but I grew up watching that, Sailor Moon, some of the more stuff that was in Toonami around that time period. But I remember Mobile Suit Gundam because that was like my show. And to today, I still love mecha. I don't care much for the anime style. I watch a lot of anime, but I just don't care for the style. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that, to me, it feels like a lot of the features are very repetitive. Like, okay, so we got 2 or 3 body styles. Actually, about 6 or 7 body styles. And then you change the eyes here and there. And the hair's different and it's different color, but you always have the guy with the glasses. You always have the ditzy girl. You always have the guy that's like a tank. You always have the socially awkward lead hero guy that looks like he's, with black hair. So it just feels like it's really rehashed when it comes to the designs most of the time. But the stories are good, and I just love how they draw their mecha. Like, that's it for me. That's what got me. I love their mecha. So it was Gundam Wing, and then so I love Gundams. What was the other one? It was Eureka 7 with the surfing mecha. That was pretty fun. Uh, I did buy the manga, but I'm not gonna lie, there was a few times where I had a hard time reading it because the pages were so elaborate that you're like, okay, I see a bunch of stuff drawn everywhere, but I can't follow the flow. And you're talking about a culture that they don't read left to right, they read right to left. So when it translate, it doesn't translate as well. So yeah, it's like the panels make no sense, so the placement of the dialogue makes no sense to me. But maybe that's just me because I've been doing this for a little bit. Um, and I have done a few other books. I've done, so Hellion Rider's my personal one, and then there was a company called Headsets. I swear your days are numbered. Yeah, yeah, no, it's brand new. This is brand new headsets. It's a concierge headset. It's a gaming set, but I cannot like get that feature to turn off. So I'm just gonna have to YouTube it this afternoon. I just put it on my list of stuff to do. So it will get done. It will get done. I promise you, it will get done. Because this is it. It just annoys the crap out of me. Okay. So this cat, he is crossing his arms, and this is where you're gonna see me struggle a little bit. Okay, and I'll tell you to the day I die, hands are still my kryptonite. I don't like to hide hands. It looks like I'm hiding hands, but I do my best not to hide hands to force me to draw them. But it's still my anxiety kicks in into high gear every time I get near hands. It's like dum 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 dum. Okay, so you got. Sometimes I draw past the panel, even though I know this is gonna get cut out, but I don't care. This is just so it looks like there's correct volume. A lot of people tend to try to squeeze the whole thing in there, and it shows. All right, so his hand. So it's gonna come up here, and then there's the hand right there. The thumb goes into kind of like underneath, and then you have finger 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what I'm talking about, that drawing stuff like that is kind of like it can drain you out after a while because you're constantly thinking. And unless you're drawing the same thing over and over, like I love some of the digital artist groups, but I've also noticed that people that get the most like likes, their artwork looks fine, but then when I look through like their body of work, they have been drawing the same thing over and over and over again, so there's no growth. They just found something that gave them validation, and then they just did not grow past that, and they cannot draw anything else but that thing. So it's practically like their own version of anime. So, if you want to be a good artist, just learn how to draw all kinds of stuff. Like I said, for me, the one thing that kills me is mechanical items, like weapons, vehicles. It really kills me. Even my humans, I still have a hard time with them. Some people say they look great. Look at this. Look at the sausage finger. Look at this. I'm trying to fix it, and I erase it, and it comes back. And it's just that once the groove is in there, it's kind of hard to fix it. Anyway, there we go. And sometimes the things that look weird, when you actually look at it, it looks like freaking chimichanga fingers. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, artists, we are our worst critics. It happens though. There we go. I think that's right. I'll come back to it. I'll fix it digital. I'll fix it in post. See, and you'll see me going back over it a few times. Yeah, I'll fix it in post. All right, close enough. God, that looks terrible. Terrible. Anyway, oh my God, so embarrassed. Anyway, so this is gonna come over here. Now keep in mind that this mass right here, so these are crossing hands. So this mass right here, part of the skin is gonna be interacting with that right there. Okay, so notice the curvature. That's telling my audience that this is kind of interacting with that. And then this is kind of going under, and then my wrist is coming here, but then the hand is going underneath behind the arm. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with rotating your paper, by the way. Like, I don't know why. I've met a couple people that are like, well, I can't rotate my paper. I'm like, why? Because it looks stupid. I'm like, do whatever is comfortable. If you're putting that much stress in your hand, like, for example, look at this. This is my normal drawing hand. This is my drawing hand itself. Look at that muscle right there. It's like the most buff muscle in my body. So if you're gonna be putting that much stress on your hands, make sure that you make it as comfortable as possible. And it's okay to be critical, but don't be so overcritical of your work that you psych yourself out, and then you don't produce anything. I can't tell you how many friends that I know that they're such perfectionists and they're constantly comparing themselves to everybody else that they don't, in the end, they psych themselves out, they don't try, and then they don't produce anything, and they're complaining they don't have anything to show. And I'm like, yeah, because you didn't try. You kind of need to try to make stuff so you have stuff to show. And he's got a little bit of a scruff. I am not a fan of beards, but I do love some scruff in a man. I don't know why. Just think it's sexy. That's just my personal preference. There we go. So he's sitting there. Notice how he's still kind of looking right here at the graphic. Okay, now I want to refer here. There's characters from my book 2 that I drew, because this is book 5. Go to my color pages. And it's actually based on 2 of my old friends. So I want to make sure to kind of keep them in the book. I do my best to kind of hide friends in my books. Okay. So this is based on my old friend Felice. He's from my animation school. Super nice guy. Ridiculously talented. Very talented. Yeah, he had really poofy hair. Very, very talented. He was actually from Italy, and he grew up there, and he migrated to the United States. Just a sweetheart of a man. And so I always kind of try to hide my friends in my books, even if it's been a good minute. You lose track of people. He had like a big gold chain. I know it's terrible. Italian guy with a gold chain. I know. But he was wearing this like crazy shirt, so it was like a dress shirt, and it had like the sleeves ripped off. Don't ask questions, man. Just don't. But again, this is the apocalypse, so anything goes. See, I can't get away with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I can get away with this. Okay, and then he was wearing kind of like a dressed down shirt, and it was tucked in. He always wears shirts tucked in and white sneakers. I'm like, dude, that's so European. It's so funny. So it was just that, like, I worked in theme parks for 5 years. That seemed to be the thing. It's how the really crazy, like football themed shoes, or like white tennis shoes. I'm like, what's up with the white tennis shoes? And I could never get an answer. It's like, it's just what's popular. I'm like, okay, whatever, respectful. Okay, that put it right there. Okay, and these guys, for whatever reason, everybody's got like these gloves. Again, when I started this book a long time ago, like, it made sense like 10 years ago, and now that I look back, it's like, why the hell did I give that guy that? But now that I did it, I have to like stick with it because, continuity purposes. Alright, and I always try to draw different types of noses. I don't like to draw the same, or what is called the tumbler nose, where everybody in Europe tend to have this little tiny nose and it's pink.
Auto shutdown initiated.
Oh, annoying.
Auto shutdown canceled.
Alright. And then he had the little goatee right here with glasses. Alright. Yeah, my friend told me I should start playing music in the background. Huh? Yeah, I don't know. He's not from Jersey. He's definitely from Italy. mm. And if you ever met him, like within like 5 seconds, you're like, oh yeah, you're from Italy. He has a really thick accent. He still speaks fluent Italian. Just like I said, the sweetest man on the planet. I haven't seen him in a couple years, but we still keep up on social media. But yeah, it was cool. It's an old college mate of mine. Just super awesome. Yeah, he was a little older than me. So he must be like in his 40s now. But you couldn't tell. Like, you look at him, it's like, God, he's got those good genes too, that he doesn't age. He'll forever look like he's like 25. I'm like, God damn it. I mean, gosh darn it. Sorry. Oh, I did so good until then I failed. But up. I'll do better, guys. I'll do better. Like I said, I know there's little ears watching, so my bad. My apologies. And there we go. And so a lot of people ask me, like, you seem to be kind of confident on your lines, and it's something that I learned from doing caricatures. It's something that is called the line of confidence. And back when I worked at the theme parks, we had to draw with color pencil and magic marker. Like, literally, it was a black Sharpie, and we only had a couple minutes to work on stuff. So we have to quickly learn how to make decisions and pre-visualize our lines. So I got to the point now where I do my rough, and then I have my line pre-visualized, and then I just refine from that point. So yeah, and I still do that too today. So people's like, you tend to draw fast. It's like, because time is money. You cannot waste your time just redrawing. If when you do a lot of like hashing, a lot of people tend to do like this weird thing where they draw a line, and instead of drawing a circle, they do this, and it looks like this hash thing. This right here tells me a lot about your mental state and a lot about your personality and how confident you are with your artwork. So if I see a portfolio and it's kind of full of that, I'm like, you're not very confident, are you? So most artists that are very experienced in their season, even if they're kind of shy by nature, you will see that their lines are very, very, this is what I'm doing. And then back here, I'm going to draw my friend Jeremy. Another super big sweetheart. He's from Barbados. And I remember he was telling me, he's like, Anna, I moved to the States and I got fat. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, I went back to Barbados and even the kids had 6-pack. I look like a fat blob. I'm like, oh. Because it's Barbados. They got all that beautiful natural food. And then he's been in the States eating McDonald's. And he's like, oh, I need to get in shape. But I just thought it was funny. That was like one of the last times I talked to him. Just another, again, super awesome guy. Great animator. I'm not sure if he's still animating. I think he's more doing graphic design now. Like I said, most of us, we did what we needed to do to survive, man. Because like 2008 hit and our industry just went. So most of us had to switch just to put like food on the table, like myself. So I have no regrets, but it still kind of blows that I just couldn't go the straight path like some of my friends. And he happened to be there with me, where he we're very talented, but the opportunity kind of got trampled by the economy. And so here we are, surviving animators doing other things, and it will happen. And the sad part is, once you reach like our point where it's been like 10 years of recovering, it's not like you can just kind of go back in. You could try to apply as a professional, but you can't.
Auto shutdown initiated. Auto shutdown
I
canceled.
swear to God, I'm going to destroy these headphones. You cannot just go and try to get an internship because you've been out for too long. And I wish they had programs that kind of gave people chances, but yep, they don't. They don't exist. This is a young man's game. They'll tell you it's not, but it really is. Plus, they can pay them a lot lower because they're younger, so they don't have as much experience. There we go. Definitely a big improvement from the first time I drew them. It says a 10-year lapse. There we go. Alright. Yeah, don't ask about the crazy colors. It makes no sense, but you know, whatever. Excuse me. Okay, he's got again, they have the bicep, deltoids, bicep, tricep, and he's kind of like peeking in, looking at the plan. And he's got these like crazy gloves. Like, there's a purpose for these gloves. I need to look back through my notes and find out what was the purpose of these gloves that I've been drawing. Okay, so now that that's been established, and I can go back in and go right there. Draw his ears. And again, you want to give the illusion that the neck is going in, and you could do that quite easily by adding a lip to the shirt. It's going back in. Again, he's got the little shoulder pad things, because most of these guys are wearing like military style vest. Most of them, except for this guy. He's wearing a jersey jersey type shirt with his arms ripped off, because he's that manly. He's that manly of a mofo. Okay, and there we go. Okay, go right there. And he's got like these pads, and then from here, it's right there, indentation for that. And then this goes right there. And then we got the hairstyle. And most of this I'll color with Photoshop. I try not to do a lot of fillers because most of this will get filled up in Photoshop with solid shapes. So there's the guys. And right here, there's going to be a graphic. There's the dialogue. So that's pretty much panel 1. And then because I go back in, I'll draw the background, but for right now, that's perfectly fine. Let me grab my other ruler. Where's my other ruler? There we go. With that, I'll finalize the base here. Alright, and boop. So this is pretty much me creating my gutters. This is my other ruler. Much smaller, easier to move around and deal with. But the problem is, one wrong move and it will slide. So again, why I really like my other metal base ruler. Where did that go, by the way? It went somewhere here. There you are. Let's rewind. Let me put my notebooks on top of it. Okay, so now let's go to the next panel down here. Like I said, I'll come back for that. I'll come back to draw the vehicles. But right now my main objective is to get the characters. Like I said, I have the horizon line. This kind of gave me a pretty good idea of where I'm going to lay out my stuff, so I not to worry about it yet. Okay, and then from here, let me go ahead and do that right there. Alright, so what is his line? He says, we're rolling mid in 3 hours. Okay, so he is super, super serial about this. Very, very serious. Sometimes I have to lightly draw out his expression And he does have a scar over one eye, which is this one. He's got a gash over his left eye. When it comes down, he's got a notch on his nose. Okay. And I made that nose a little too wide. Let me pull that back a little bit. So it comes back, goes up, and it's more rounded, and that's totally fine. His eyes tend to be more squarish. And the reason why I can kind of draw him with like kind of free hands, because I've drawn him many times before, so I can kind of have an idea how to draw him already. It's that whole repetition. And he does have high cheeks. You can see right here, I got the indication right here, he has high cheeks. And it comes down, very, very manly jaw. Boop. Okay, and then go right here. Okay, I gotta be careful that I make him look like he's smiling, because this is a serious, you know, they're being followed by the bad guys. So I gotta be careful that once I add the dialogue, that the expression makes sense with the dialogue. It's like, why is he happy that they're chasing him? That would make zero sense. So you gotta make sure, again, why keep my script nearby to double check what's going on in the shot. Okay, he's got his chin here, and then high cheeks, comes down, very square, and right here it follows. And what I'm keeping an eye on is the bone structure. Again, this is what's important to have sheets, because you and understand anatomy, because the last thing you need is for you to draw the line up here, and it indicates that he has really high cheekbone, or in this case it will have more like bags underneath his eyes, versus kind of drawing it down here. Yeah, so that's right there. Okay, and then from there, so we're doing that. Oh, let me hit the button. Hey, no, not today. Not today. Hey, can you guys still hear me, by the way? Alright, because I can't tell, because, you know, there's no music. My friend suggested I should play some, like, YouTube. Like, they got some royalty-free stuff, but I gotta be careful with that, because, you know, these channels are getting really, adamant about their copyright, and they'll strike your account for like no good reason. So I'm kind of scared to play any. Okay, cool. I'm kind of scared to play any like copyright, even free music, because I just don't know. Just because it says copyright free music doesn't mean it's copyright free music. Okay, right there, pretty much implying. There we go. Again, he's got 3 of them. Again, it's just me keeping track of it from my animation days. So he's got his dreads come out to here, and that comes out there. These are dreadlocks. And again, I will refine this here in a second. Okay, rubber band back here. Got this. Okay, so we got that right there. And it's not always gonna look perfect. I mean, you do the best to get your characters consistent. I know some people are super adamant about it. I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not gonna sweat over it. I just want to be able to say, hey, I did a comic book. Yeah. So leave me alone. You always meet a lot of people that they're like, oh, I have this great idea and I'm going to do it, and I never do it. So for me, it's more like, I have this great idea, I'm going to do it. So yeah, it might not be to my standards, but you know, it's a lot of work. Each book is about like three. For me, it used to be about 300 man hours. Now it's probably closer to 400 because I just don't have the stamina that I used to. Um, so notice right here, guys. Here's where I put the edge, and I'm correcting now because he has a very mesomorph body. So I'm not sure if you guys know anything about fitness, but he is not a twig man. This is, think of like your special forces kind of looking dudes that you see on TV, like G.I. Joe kind of looking guys. Um, in the story, he is of prior military background, or in this future version of military ish background. And then there's a strap right there, and then there's part of his hair back here. So I'm making adjustments as I go right through. Okay, and then right here we got the plate. There's some thickness to this plate. And it comes down. You don't really get to see much of his body because, again, when have you ever seen anybody wear heavy gear, a lot of it gets covered because you can either look great and fit, or you can try to survive by looking bulky and practically immovable. But what ifs. Okay, so that kind of gets me that right there. So that's getting closer. I'm just kind of cleaning it out. Yeah, yeah. Well, the reason why the music industry is being stingy is because the second everything started streaming, they started losing a lot of money because people stopped buying CDs. So that's the main reason for that. So in a way, I cannot blame them. Artists today do not make the money they used to back when they used to sell, cassette tapes and records. So that's also the other reason why the concerts have gotten ridiculously expensive, because they don't bring the money that they used to, and the concerts is the only way to mainly do it. My understanding is, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me with this, but what I've heard from multiple news outlets is like the way that artists collect money today is through a pool. So let's say you belong to, like, ABC record label, and that company decides to put your album through, like, let's say Spotify or something like that. So the way they have it is, however playbacks they get pennies per playback. It goes into a pool, and then whatever that pool brings, then they'll go ahead and then they split it among the artists. So it's great if you're an artist that doesn't get paid very little, but let's say you're like somebody like super famous, like Taylor Swift or something like that. Then she's not getting near as much as she would have because of those arrangements that they met. So in a way, it kind of curves things up for the artists, because I mean, I remember the era where everybody was just copying and burning people's discs, which, when they started getting at $20-$30 a pop, it kind of sucked. But at the same time, it's like, you're a kid, and $30 for a disc was a lot even back then. Yeah, so it's I mean, it's still a lot for $30 today for one album, especially if you're only gonna listen to one song. um, yeah, so the 99-cent release, but anyway, so it's kind of like a pool, so you only get part of what you make, and it's kind of like divided into everybody else. So that's why they're trying to get the money as much as possible from different sources. Again, that's my understanding. That's what I've heard from multiple news outlets of how this is going down, but I could be wrong. It's not a big deal. Excuse me. Um, Sorry, I had a really good lunch before this to make sure that I did not stop drawing. Alright, so it's going from there. And notice right here I'm contouring. I'm kind of showing the volume. Looks like he's got a butt. He's got a butt. He's got a butt. Yeah, but again, these are dreads. So the dreads are not... If I was doing like a retro style, it would be like a straight line. But because I'm trying to give volume to these, I'm going to have to create little bumps. Little bumps. Little bumps. Alright, hit the button. And again, these are implied dreadlocks. These are thick dreadlocks, not the thin dreadlocks. Or as I call the stoner dreadlocks. These are different. Okay, so we got that. Okay, back here we got the little rubber band, and then this is the stressing point on the hair, so this is gonna push out, push out, push out. Okay, it's gonna come out. Okay, that's right there. Alright, press the button. Okay. What are you doing, Meow Meow? Okay. Yeah, my cats are causing a mayhem in the background, don't mind me. Okay, so he's talking, he's looking to the distance. Kind of raise some of that right there. So hopefully this kind of gives you guys a better idea on my thought process. I normally just kind of sit in a corner. I don't say much. Believe it or not, I am a forced extrovert. I am actually a very big introvert. And what I've come to learn earlier in my career is that if you don't socialize with people and build up your network, even something as simple as saying, hey, how are you doing? You will miss on a lot of opportunities. I met a lot of really talented artists that nobody knows anything about because they just kind of sit there all day drawing. They never talk to anybody, they never network. And then I met some kind of okay artists that they would get these incredible positions because they became friends with the right people and then they network. So I make it a point to force myself to be kind of an extrovert, but in actuality I'm kind of an introvert. Like this weekend, my idea of a great weekend is at the most is spending time with my family, but they're out of town this week, so I'm pretty much just chilling by myself. Is trying out a new video game. I'm currently doing some furniture. What's that called? Where you like refurbish the furniture. I guess that's what that's called. Where you just remove all that, you strip it and then you sand it and then you put the finish on it. I guess that's what that's called. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I know. My brain is putting to the I ain't gonna lie. And notice, guys, the stuff that I'm keeping consistent. Right here, I'm carrying these things over. So right there's a little shredded there, so I'm carrying it over here. Again, this is not new gear. It has seen things, so it's not going to be shiny and new. Okay. Yeah, but no, that's what I've learned. So people's like, oh, Anna, you're so popular. Everybody knows you. In the back of my mind, people don't realize that I sometimes talk, and my brain is bouncing between Spanish and English. So I swear that people look at me and they're like, did she just had a stroke? And I'm like, no, I got my orders incorrect because things get flipped the other way in Spanish. And then I try to speak Spanish and it sounds like English. I'm like, ah! So, yeah. And especially if it's someone that, they have a really big influence around me. I get really nervous, so I come out as a goofy goober. There's very few people in my life that I get really nervous around, and that's because I think the world of them. But for most part, I'm pretty chill. I'm just kind of an introvert. I just like to be left alone. I hate crowded rooms, unless it's like an arcade or something where it's supposed to be crowded. I just don't like them because especially if I'm working, I really hate the open concept setups. I know people love them. I just don't like them because if someone's having like a stupid conversation, I can't focus because I'm focusing on everything at the same time. So I'm more of I like to be at home, quiet, producing, and I've come to learn that the more isolated I am, the higher my output. Everybody's got different ways of working, but if I really need to get serious, I need to be isolated. I just put some Netflix or Hulu in the background with some anime or some show I've seen before, and I listen to it, and that just kind of keeps me going. Right, so that's panel 2. I can't remember. The sides it was like a mesh, and it contours around the body. All right, but this is the kind of stuff I'm thinking about, guys. As I'm doing this, notice that I'm keeping track of of consistencies. I'm keeping track of the anatomy. I'm keeping track of what's overlapping over what, like foreground, midground, background. Are my fingers bending correctly? Little stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that I'm watching out for. Okay. Let me keep going here. All right. And right now I'm just cleaning that out. And like I said, my goal is to get this whole page done today in one sitting in front of you guys. I might have to take a pee break here soon. So that's about it. I already ate a good meal, so I don't have to pause and get some food. Nom nom nom. Okay. Sometimes I like to draw the fingernails, sometimes I don't. Don't ask why, just the way my brain is. And I bounce between hand styles, from really bad hand styles to okay hand styles. I gotta laugh at myself, because if I don't, nobody else will. Gosh darn it. Okay, I'm so weird. I'm so weird. Alright, so you can see he's holding the little walkie-talkie thing. And I'm just gonna draw a rectangle, I ain't gonna lie. I don't have to do anything fancy for this. As long as the audience understands. This is it's kind of weird because it's like the future, but it's like the future / Fallout 4, where they still using, like, they're using the M939s, which are like not the 939. Yeah, the 939s, is that right? Yeah, the 939s, which is like really old military vehicles, but then they have like laser beams. So it's like a mix of both. And honestly, if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that we use in our everyday life that's kind of like old, but some of it is still new. So I don't know. Anyway, so right here, I need to fix this right here because this looks like it's going straight, but look at how his chest is contouring. So I need to fix that right there. So where my eraser go? No Control Z in this joint. No. Okay, it's just my computer doing updates. Okay, cool. I just hit the button again, so I'm trying to stay on top of it so we don't have any more like turning off. Okay, so right here he's kind of covering. There's still the strap is back here, but because he's kind of coming across, he's wearing this bulky thing. Partially is being covered by this. Okay, there are two very large muscles here coming down. And again, this is me trying to force myself. And even this is not correct. I'm pretty sure it's not correct. But again, it's one of those things. I'm forcing myself and I'm trying to correct myself. And sometimes you'll see me where when you look at the pencil drawing and you look at the comic book, the final version, there's corrections because I'll catch something that at the time I could not do. And like right here, there's a lot of muscle structure going on here that I just don't have. Like if his hands turn this way, certain muscles like will pop out. So I'm gonna have to go back in and do a little more research on this right here. But for right now, I'm gonna move forward and I'll do that correction later. So I'm gonna make myself a note, arm. So that way later on I come back and I look into that. Yeah, but I'm not gonna get hung up on one little thing. The objective is to keep moving forward. And again, the vehicle's back here, which I'll come back to that. Now let's go ahead and finish the gutter up here. And I tend to put about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch. It depends how many panels I got on a page. I think the most panels I've done on a page has been around like 8 or 10. It was just a lot of quick actions. So that's why I needed that. Normally I stick to like 5 to 6 at the most. But for right now, this works. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue there. And let me move over to her. Okay, so right here. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so she is flying through midair. Again, this is some made up tech thing. It's some BS that kind of looks good. I am not an engineer by any means of the imagination. I do look at a lot of references, but even then, I gotta be careful because you don't want to copy someone's design and then put it in your book and then get it copywritten because they are um, copyrights and registered like designs. So you got to be really careful when you reference stuff. So sometimes just making up random BS like a helmet. You can't sue someone for drawing a random helmet. It's kind of like trying to sue someone for drawing a chair. Like IKEA can register a design of a chair, but they cannot copyright a chair or register a chair because that is something that is so practical that it doesn't, yeah, it wouldn't fly. It would just not fly. Okay, so here's the helmet. It's got like a little microphone thing that sticks out from there. Okay, and she's flying, so I should put a little bug right there. Okay, so here is Lou's nose. Okay, so that's right there. And Lou's based off from me, so I tend to have what we call them in Latin culture a chata nose, because I'm European. I'm mainly European with a pinch of black mix, so I got some black African features. Cause you're from the Caribbean, dude. We got like everything. Like I'm German, Jewish, Italian with a pinch of black, and then God knows what else. I think we might even have some Asian, because my sister has like what's called monoloid eyes, so her eyes tend to look more Asian, but she's my full blood sister. So we got a little bit of everything in our gene pool. And it's funny because like you look at my grandma. My grandma was blonde hair, blue eyes, freckles, kind of like blondish reddish hair actually. And I remember I was really little. Like I loved her hair. It was just kind of like shine in the sun. Looked like fire. Like I barely remember her because my parents had me old, so she died when I was really little. And then my grandmother on my mom's side was the same thing, like fair skin, and then my mom's a quarter black, and I never met my biological grandfather. He died when she was little, and then I have like an older brother that he's from my dad's first marriage, and he looks just like me, which is crazy. Except that he's got green eyes, like emerald green eyes, and he's 6'4", and he's fair skinned. So we got everything in our family. Very blended, very blended. um, yeah, but so this is based on my character. The design of her has changed dramatically because when I first drew her was 10 years ago, and I looked much different back then. So now the character looks a little bit more updated. It's have aged. Okay, so right here we got, like I said, I'll keep working on this, guys, after I'm done with the stream today. I'll see if I can make the camera look a little bit more focused. This is as focused as I could get it this time around. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. There we go. There you go. So that's right there. But yeah. So. Yep, I'm a mutt. I'm a mutt. I mean, like, what are you? Mutt. I'm 100% American mutt. American Caribbean mutt. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's the belt right there. Let's go right here. And again, I'm keeping track of, here's her head. That's the neck overlapping. Here's the shoulders. Okay, her breast, she's wearing a plate. And if you've seen females wearing like those plates, they're not very flattering. They don't protect them very well. If you ever talk to any female service members, they would tell you that those plates are not designed for women. So it actually puts them in danger, from my understanding. Like I said, I personally do not know. I've never been in the service, but I've had friends of all walks of life, so I love to learn through their experiences. So it's kind of like ill-fitted on her, but it's getting held down by a belt. Right here, she's wearing like practically like what is a motorcyclist jacket. And right here, we got, so this is coming from her chest down to here. There is some folding from the jacket at this point. It comes down, it goes up, hit the button. Right here, some foreshortening. Okay. I was gonna hit Control S. Control S. Ah, there is no Control S. Ah, okay. Oh my goodness, there is something seriously wrong with me. Okay, so that's right there, and then you're gonna vaguely see part of her legs into the distance, and that goes into the next panel right here. So I'm gonna stop that right there. Excuse me. Okay, so this goes down, and there's some straps right around here that kind of hold her up. Like I said, have you ever seen like a paratrooper? Their gear is kind of like, if here's their chest, and this is my understanding for what I've seen. So that's their chest, that's their hip. You have a strap here, here, strap here, and then right here you got like the main area, and then they'll have like their spare parachute. It's right here somewhere. And then they also have a strap right around here that literally I can't even imagine having that just riding up on my crotch. And then they got the actual like parachute back here. Like, it's crazy. Like, my friends do this stuff and I'm just like, wow, that is the coolest stuff ever. But then, I'm always kind of scared they're not gonna come back from one of them jumps. I had a friend that he was my old roommate. He was a infantry medic, and he super nice guy. Like, I miss that dude. And he invited me to one of his jumps just to see him jump, and I'm like, cool, get to see you jump. And then he landed, so he was about 170 pounds, and then he landed, and that was not a graceful landing. Like, he went down, it was like, pet! And I was like, oh God, I should have gotten half of his rent before he jumped. I fucking died. I was like, technically, I was genuinely worried. I wasn't trying to be an a-hole, but that's like, oh God, I should have gotten his rent. But, it was not graceful. That was not a graceful landing. And then he was like about 170 pounds, solid muscle, and then he was jumping like with all kinds of gear. Like, I can't even tell you what half the crap was. All I know is that there was his parachute, and then he had like his medic kit, because again, he was the medic for his infantry unit, and then he had like his weapon, and I'm like, good God. So he literally jumped with like his body weight worth of crap off the freaking plane and landed just, oh my God, that was not a graceful landing. Okay, so right here I'm doing a correction. So here is the wrist. All right, there is the palm, and again this is coming right at us. Yeah, but I admire a lot of my friends in the military, man. Like, it's not, people think it's like all fun and games, and it's a rough life, and I can't thank them enough for what they do for our country. And I know they don't think they're doing anything special, but to me, it's like the most awesome thing ever. Like, you literally wrote a blank check to Uncle Sam to fight in some armpit of the world and make sure that bad guys don't come here. Like, that's a pretty big sacrifice. So, I have a lot of admiration for my friends that do that kind of work. And same thing goes for like firefighters. I have a couple firefighter friends. I have police officer friends. Police officers run in my family, believe it or not. I had a couple officers in my family. My uncle was like, I think it was like a sheriff in PR. So yeah, so service members run in my family. Public servants run in my family. So it's something that it's just embedded with my family. So yeah, so you ever see me being super respectful to someone, that's just the way that I grew up. It just runs in my family. All right. It's just funny because I turned out to be an artist. All right. Yeah, oh yeah, the perfect landing, my butt. Okay, see, the spare parachute is between the diaphragm and the upper belly, okay? with the straps between the legs makes for a great squeeze. Wink, wink. Oh, good lord. Yeah, Gun Bunny, you would know because you were in the military. And you know the perfect landing, my ass. Yeah, that was not a very graceful. That I genuinely thought he at least broke something, and he got up. He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, oh my god, like oh my god, like I literally almost like pooped my pants. Ah, pooped my pants. All right, so you can see right here, characters coming right at us. Again, I'm leaving space right here for my dialogue. It's going to continue. It's going to go from here, going to flow down here. It's going to go over here. And this one right here, this panel, there's not a lot going on in the background because she is flying in midair. So it's mainly going to be like a sky scene with some clouds and stuff. So nothing too crazy. Okay, so let me go ahead and sharpen my pencil. Take a swig. Like I said, my goal is to get this done. And like I said, I tend to plan these to be. I maybe because I come from production, I try to make sure that my panels are very economical. That the dialogue tells you a lot more. It keeps it interesting. I met a lot of artists that they put a lot of fluff in their pages, and then the story kind of falls flat. So I'm like, I really don't want to read this because it's boring. And maybe nobody wants to read this book. And you know what? And I'm totally fine with this. I still got friends that bought my book 10 years ago. It's like, when are you making the next one? I'm like, it's coming. They're like, when you're making the next one. So I'm making sure they're seeing that I'm working on this. I've gotten a lot of support from my friends. They know what I've been through. I've not had a very good 10 years of my life. I lost a lot of people along the way. I lost just so many people. So I'm just now kind of just like the phoenix. I'm reemerging from those flames, and I feel more motivated to produce stuff for me and not just produce stuff for everybody else. And anybody that works with me, that would tell you that when I go to work, I kind of turn off part of my brain to just produce. Like, I'm detached to my artwork, and to be honest, that's the way you have to be, because you work your butt off on a product, and you know it looks great and it makes sense, and then the client will pick the complete opposite, or they'll pick like the worst design that you have made. And it's kind of disheartening, but when you detach yourself from that, you can kind of take and you can kind of produce more. So it can be, this is why I tell artists, like, if you're constantly producing work from somebody else, make sure you take the time to produce your own stuff, to recharge your own batteries, because all you're doing stuff for other people, you are emotionally draining yourself by forcing yourself to do art you don't want to do or you don't care to do. And then, it does have a mental fatigue. It does have a fatigue on you, especially when you do produce work and then you never hear if it got used, was it successful. It just kind of goes into the void. So it's kind of good to take the time and work on some stuff and experiment. So to me, this is Anna's little experiment. I need to go back and relook at all the publishing stuff, because the stuff that I need to know about publishing back in the day has completely changed. So it's very different now. So right now I'm just kind of making my product to learn. There's never a great landing, only luck. You either land like a sack of potatoes, or a rare move like landing, or in the trees. I've heard about the trees, awful. The road, or once a true story for someone else landing on an SF pawn, being held for a week, that tossed back to the unit, and thanks for the help for them. What's an SF pawn? What is that? They're like a. I've never heard that term before. What is an SF pawn? Like a sewage pawn? Ew. SF. Oh, special forces. Wait, there's special forces pawns? Like, what's so special about these pawns? Do they have lasers underneath? It's part of like the Cobra, G.I. Joe, like the old G.I. Joe cartoons. They press a button and a little thing comes up with like lasers and it shoots out. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me. Just let my imagination run. That's what I tell my friends. Like, look, it's like just anytime you tell me you have a meeting, I think you're just getting on a Humvee and then you're gonna go fight Cobra somewhere. Just let me have this. I know, right? That'd be cool. You like sitting there fishing, and suddenly like this turrets come out of the water and they shoot like lasers or missiles out. That'd be so dope. You're like, I thought that only happened in cartoons, and here we are. ah, son of a gun. Okay, cool. It's not perfect. It's just for fun, and I have been noticing my drawing as I've been working on this book again. my I've gotten less stiff. Just let it go, people. She's having a moment. Yes, I am having a moment. Um, it makes me feel a lot better. Um, I'm just having fun and not worried about critics. I'm always gonna have a critic. Like I had a friend that looked at my book and he goes, there's always a lot of two panels on your stuff. I was like, yeah, it's true, but you have no idea what the story is. And most people would have freaked out over that, and I just kind of like brushed it off because I'm like, dude, you have no idea what the story is like, and you're already criticizing my panels. And it's like, give me like, is it that the flow is bad? No, you got two people per panel. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't do the American comic thing, which I've noticed where they do like a little bit of dialogue, action, a little bit of dialogue, action. I like to kind of do more like the cinematic kind of thing. All right, she's got these controllers that comes out. She also has this logo. It's practically, I believe, a silver dollar. Looks like a little stingray thing. It's like her family design. I need to go back and read through my notes. I have all this in my Bible. It's just that I've forgotten some of it, and I've been refining some of it. But it's a very important symbol. She's, like I said, she's practically wearing a motorcyclist jacket that she's modified to be this Rocketeer-like character. Right here, this the straps by her coochie area. Coochie, 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 coochie. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Press the button. Cool. Okay, and she's got like a controller here, and technically this thumb is going this way when it should be heading that way. Like I said, you'll see me making corrections as I'm going through, because now my mind's had a moment to analyze this. And there's a button down here, and there's another, it's like a little rocket button thing. Knuckle comes in, fold, 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 fold. There we go. Okay. It looks a little odd, but like I said, if it looks too funky, I will go back later and I'll take some reference pictures and I'll do corrections. It does happen. But again, my main objective is to get most of it done and then do corrections as I need to do. I have found myself being good at writing good environment and story, and suck at dialogue. Yeah, it's dialogue is really tricky, because you have to give a sense. A lot of people, so what I tell people is like, just write what you're trying, what the intent is, and then once you have the intent, go back in and think about how this character would deliver this information, if they would deliver that information. Because a guy that has experience would deliver information way different than a rookie. Does that make sense? So, maybe the rookie will be freaking out and whatever, versus a guy that's like I was watching a new Final Fantasy movie that was on Netflix, and you had this obviously very military-ish character, and it's practically Starship Troopers but in Final Fantasy format, which is kind of interesting. But you could tell the guy that has been to war several times before. Actually, yeah. No, it was Starship Troopers. Never mind. Starship Troopers movie. It's on Netflix. Check it out. So the guy that had fought the bugs before had a different way of delivering information versus the lieutenant that was under his wing that was like flipping out. I was like, oh my god, the bugs are coming. This is real. Blah blah blah. And like the guy's like, yep, there's more bugs coming. Just get ready. Don't do anything stupid. And for the love of Pete, do not die. Just don't die. So that was more like his attitude versus the rookies. So when you're writing dialogue, just figure it out what the actual message is. Is it something that you can sprinkle along the timeline? Is it something that's a key element at that point that needs to be known? And once you understand that, then figure out how will your character deliver it based on their personality. And I think that will help you a little bit better on creating the dialogue. You also got to keep in mind the relationships between your characters. There's a thing called layer cakes. Layer cakes is, and I used to teach this back when I used to teach gaming design at one of the colleges. And I used to do like the character development portion. And one of the things that you need to figure out is layer cakes. And layer cakes is my relationship. I'm surprised that I can describe an orange without using the word orange. Yeah. But layer cakes are like, okay, you have two characters. What is their relationship? So let's pick the mentor and mentee relationship. So you have like a teacher-student relationship. So the teacher will see the student more as, they might be overprotective over them. They will see them as unexperienced. They will try to lend a hand. Sometimes they will be a tough teacher. Maybe the character's going into a very tough situation. The character cannot be cuddled or they will be destroyed. So depending on the teacher's experience and their level of their relationship, the teacher will act a particular way towards their student. The student, depending on their background, sometimes they will be they will hang on their master's every word. Sometimes they will say, you don't know what you're talking about, old man or old woman, and they'll defy them. Think of like Naruto versus Jiraiya kind of thing, where, Jiraiya was one of the great Sannin, and like, he was training Naruto, and Naruto could be a little punk sometimes. And he still stuck by him because Jiraiya knew the potential behind Naruto. Then you have like Demon Slayer with the guy that trains him, and the guy is just completely savage towards him. Like this guy just gets his butt beaten over and over and over again until he can break the freaking rock. So he was teaching him what he needed to learn, but he did not cuddle him because he knew the path ahead of him was very harsh. And then you had the mentor for the Lightning Kid, and it was completely different. That kid was a spaz. Not gonna lie, the Lightning Kid is my least favorite character from that series. Cat, what are you doing? What you doing, you butt? Yeah, oh, you're playing with my ruler. Here. Come on. Here. Play with the ruler over here. Away from the camera. There. Play with it over there. Go on. There you go. Good girl. Good. Yeah, so it depends on what's happening, what's the situation. So that right there will help you figure out how to deliver the dialogue. Because a lot of people, they go, oh, that's good enough, that's the information, and then they don't realize how flat their dialogue is. And I have to deal with this with clients sometimes where they'll give me a script to draw, and it looks like it was written by a 14-year-old. Like, there's no thought behind it, there's no emotion behind it, and, like, there's nothing there that adds depth to the character. So, for example, let's say you have two battle buddies. Like, if you've seen anything... Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, cat needs attention. The cat's fine. She's playing with my ruler. She just wants to play with a ruler. But yeah, like if you have battle buddies, you're gonna probably see them teasing each other. You're gonna see them like foul mouthing each other, maybe competing with each other. Think of Legolas and the dwarf from Lord of the Rings. Like they will badmouth each other and constantly compete with each other, but towards the end, you know they have some dialogue that that is it confirmed their bond. Like it was a pleasure fighting with you, even though you're a pointy-eared something elf, blah blah blah. So you can sense a sense of history and bond between the characters as they went through their journey, and that's where a lot of people kind of miss when they're writing dialogue. They forget to add those little enriching little things to it to give it more depth and kind of how do you say enrich the lore, enrich the world, enrich the relationship their whole time. Yeah, so think of how you speak to your friends too. How do you speak to your mother versus how do you speak to a close friend versus how do you speak to your mentors versus how you speak to a boss. So you can use those as points of references when you are. I overthink my scenes and story at times. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're building a giant lore world. Like a really like in-depth stuff, and any other stuff you're overthinking, just write it onto the side, and come back to it later. I've had to do that. That's why you see, like, even on my, like I said, even on these, you see little notes, like some of these right here. Like, I'll change things around, or let me see if I have any more notes in here. Like, I go back in and I change. See, got little notes right there. So that's why I like printing some of my scripts out, because something that I saw, something that I saw when it was printed was not obvious when I was typing it out. So I can go back and do more corrections so it makes more sense. Okay, let me go over here. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's go ahead and enhance these gutters. Hey, gutters have been enhanced. This one. You saw the ruler slip there, didn't you? Okay, go right here. Go right there. Pop it up. Going right there. And there we go. And you can use the little X's. Some people like to use X's indicating that this is a gutter, dark area. X's is mainly used when you're doing a lot of inking. I like my pencil lines, so I try to keep as much of it as possible. Again, because I'm the cleanup artist, I'm the coloring artist. So my way to cut down on time is I make my line arts as clean as possible, and then I use textures and color and light color to portray what I need, and I don't use inking. It's just something that I just don't care for it. It's just my style. It's not that it's bad. I mean, I have friends that are amazing inkers. Not get me wrong. This is just the style that I like. It's a preference. Maybe one of these days I'll give them one of my pieces and they can ink the crap out of it. But for right now, this is what I like to do, because this is a little personal project, and that's okay. Okay, so now I have my main characters, panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. All right. Okay, so far doing pretty good. I'm at the 2-hour mark, so I'm actually doing really good. All right, let's go ahead and move this up. And I gotta make sure you are stretching your hands as you're drawing. Think of this as, just like any exercise. Whew, Mamma mia. Here I go again. You gotta laugh at things. Just because I'm a little crazy. All right, so now we're gonna go to the top view. All right, so here we have, she is looking forward. All right, so that's the helmet. Okay, I'm looking at the contouring right here. Okay, so that's right there. There we go, so that's doing that right there. And like I said, guys, I'll do these more in the future. This is my first time doing, like, this is, I said, my camera's pretty new. I had a friend that had to get rid of it because, he needed the money. And so this is me kind of learning. I eventually want to invest in a better camera, but the way things have been the past year, it's just been insane. Things are grossly overpriced. I was trying to help a friend yesterday trying to buy a workstation. He kept asking me $400 was enough to buy a workstation that run Photoshop, and I'm like, no, that could barely run email. Okay, I'll talk to you later, dude. Have fun. Enjoy your lunch. All right. So, so this is the top view. So again, she's looking down. Notice I'm keeping track of the contour here, here, and here. And then right here, she's going to be talking. So we're going to see mainly the bottom of their lip. Okay, and then the chin. And I got to make sure. So she actually had some injuries from before. So she got a Band-Aid right here on her cheek. Again, it's that continuity thing. Okay, that I'm trying to keep over there. Okay, so there's the nose. Okay, so that gives me that right there. Now from here, if you're looking up, if you're laying flat and you're looking up, you can hardly ever see your neck from that angle. This actually goes back, and it's like a little rolly thing right there. Okay, and then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draw her jetpack from the back view, which is pretty simple. Again, I did not go crazy with these designs at the time when I was drawing this. I didn't even know how to draw a handgun when I first drew this. My handguns, if you go to like the first couple books, they're just bricks. It's a brick with a brick. And since then, I've grown a lot. So it's one of those, I've taken the time to learn how to draw decent weapons now. And I've experienced firing a firearm now. So things that didn't make sense to me back then make sense now. Or things that, I said that backwards. Things that at the time I didn't know makes absolutely no sense now. But I've tried to go back and correct a couple of those, especially since there might be a slight reprint of the first book. Yeah, so right here she's got her little logo. It's that little $C kind of thing. Or a stingray. I think it was a stingray what I had. Okay, and then right here that's her neck. And this is not the most comfortable gear on the planet. She literally MacGyver stuff together. That's totally cool. Okay, so that's right there. Okay, from here, notice how I'm still keeping track of her arm here, even though we cannot physically see it because this mask is going to be overlapping her arm. But it's still good to keep track of it. Like, it doesn't hurt because otherwise it looks like it belongs on the body, and it is part of the body in this shot. Okay, and I'm going to expand this out. You see that's the rib cage right there, and that goes right there. And I'm kind of cautiously filling this out. Okay. Alright, so that's right there. I'm trying to keep up. I always have these 1, 2, 3. Then right here. Do that right there, consistency. And sometimes you'll find, no matter how consistent you try to be, you still forget a detail or two. Do not get frustrated. Just fix it. Just fix it. So right now it's a cylinder. That's what this is right here. And I actually researched a little bit on these, on the jetpack, on how to draw the sides of this. There's an interesting system on jet planes that when they land, they actually thrust out air going in the opposite direction. Do not ask me what it is. I do not do aerodynamics, but I had to research it up so that way I can create the panels right here on the jetpack. Let me see. And there's 4 of them, so it's vent. So that's the edge that goes in. Vent number 1, vent number 2, vent number 3. And these pretty much, so this right here has, even though there's like a little strap there area there, and then same thing here, this actually rotates. And then when she's landing, this will kind of invert and it will pull air to here and I'll push it out to here to come out to a stop. Again, it's just one of those things that it forces me to do a bit of research, to get out of my box, learn something new. I can't not tell you how important it is to stay open-minded, to learn new things. And I'll be the first one to tell you I don't know everything, but I'm interested to learn new things. Okay, gotta check something real quick. Okay, still good. Okay, cool. Just making sure the Twitch is still running. Okay, cool. Alright, so right here, there's one arm. And this right here, there's going to be some corrections there. And, okay, let's go there. And again, I'm just keeping track of what I'm doing. And some of these will require corrections later. And I'm cool with that. And then right here, you can see the strap because the butt cheeks are around here. And then right here is there. And then right here, there's the little thruster. It comes out and keeps going from there. All right, so now I got the base, so I can go ahead and keep drawing and clean this up a little bit. Like I said, if I even get one page done today, I would be super accomplished. And that's the thing, you gotta pace yourself. Okay, what's my cat breaking in the background? Hey! Okay, she seems to be fine. Now you press the button. Hey! Press the button. So you take a swig. Amazing. Swig, 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 swig. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. And right here, now that's kind of clearing out. Okay, right here, there's my backpack. Very simple. Not too crazy. Probably down the line if I decide to continue the series, because right now it's only 7 books for that. This is just me setting up the base story. I'll probably continue developing the story and then I'll refine these things as I go. This time around, just keeping it simple. I don't like to overthink things. Like I said, I tend to do that all day, every day. Go from there. But as long as the basics are met, like it's consistent. Go from here. Let's do that there. Now I might go later tonight and I might go play Tomb Raider, so you might see me a little bit later tonight playing Tomb Raider. I've been meaning to play it. I downloaded it. I got the PS Plus membership. So it's one of those things that I've been meaning to play. Well, I might play the Witcher card game on my Steam. I am making sure I allocate myself rest time. I don't want to be like the poor guy from Berserk that literally, as amazing as the artwork was, I don't want to die working. I just don't want to die working. That was his jam, and kudos to him. But that's not how I want to work. I want to go. So I make sure I allocate myself resting time. But again, as long as I get just 1 page a day, I feel like I've done something. Especially since I'm just doing this for my own thing. I'm not getting paid or anything to do this. It's just practice, capability kind of thing. And that's the one thing I encourage people to do. I know a lot of artists that they get a job, they work on their portfolio really hard, and then they get a job, and then all they do is do artwork for that job, and then they don't produce anything on their own. So when you end up in a bind where, let's say, your job goes bye-bye, a lot of people forget that they have these agreements that they cannot take any other work with them from that job. So if you've been in a job more than 5-6 years, that's 5-6 years of work that you cannot show. And so the stuff that you did show to get that job is now outdated. So always make sure you give yourself a project to practice some stuff. For me, this forces me to draw more hands. It forces me to draw more gear, forces me to draw more vehicles. It's exercising my ability to execute a script quickly, that I'm writing the script practice. You're never going to get better at anything if you don't practice, so this is good practice for me. Yep, and then right here. And it forces me to constantly keep up with some of the basics that I used to teach, you know, continuity. Alright, here we go. Okay, and even this hand I might have to move over here. So that's right there. And even this I might go back later and add more emphasis to that hand right there. It's such a strange angle because I'm drawing her coming from the top. Alright, that right there. Press the button. So I'm just now gently clean this stuff out. Okay, whew. Okay, so I'm gonna finish drawing her and I'm gonna grab a quick potty break. It won't take me very long, I just gotta really pee. That's the problem when you drink liquids all day long. Yeah. Okay, so it's a cylinder. It's got an opening, it's kind of like a jet turbine. There's going to be some thickness in there. This comes down. There is a rim right here of color that contours around the surface. This is the second one. And right here. There we go. Okay. And then from there I can either freehand the straight line, which I personally like freehanding the straight lines. It kind of gives it a very human touch. And then this thing's kind of like a really, it's got a thickness to this part right here, kind of like an edge, and then that lips around this corner here, and then right here there's another edge. Okay, press the button. Okay, if I don't press the button, it's gonna say powering down, so don't mind me if I keep saying press the button. Okay, do that. Yeah, guys, but if you ever get a chance to meet me in person, don't be intimidated. I get a lot of people that tell me I look intimidating. Unfortunately, I suffer from resting bee face, and most of the time people think I'm just trying to murder someone, when in fact I'm just going through my itinerary in my head of what I need to do for the day. I just don't mean to, but I do look like a thumping ogre going down the hallways at work, which is funny. I can only imagine how my coworkers see me, but I'm actually a pretty gentle soul, and you ever see me just super grumpy because something's very wrong. Only a few of my friends can kind of catch on that. But no, most everybody else is like, it's just Anna, just doing Anna things. But yeah, I'm really a nice person. I just come across as a hard ass sometimes. I'm also brutally honest. As I gotten older, I realized I just don't sugarcoat things for people. I don't know what the psychological thing for that is. I just don't. I don't do it. I just don't sugarcoat things for people, and I just say what it is. I just don't know why. I just suddenly just turn like that. All right, so I'm gonna put a quick pause right here. Just please give me a few more minutes. I will be right back. I just really gotta use the restroom, so I'll be back. much gooder. All right. Hey, all right, and I'm back. All right. Said I just needed a quick potty break because I just could not hold it anymore. I drink about a gallon of water a day, and while my kidneys appreciate it, I ain't gonna lie to you. If you're not near a bathroom and you're drinking a gallon of water a day, oof, oh, you're gonna have a rough day. So just make sure you're near a restroom. All right, there we go. Okay, so far I'm at like 2 hours, 21 minutes. Okay, that's not bad for 2 hours. Got the starting point, and then I got the midpoint, and I gotta do some background. This one, nothing's needed. This one, I need a little bit. So let's go ahead and start getting into those vehicles. Okay, so right now he's standing in front of M939, which is the old trucks. So let me pull out a reference. I am a reference hog. I love references. Again, if anybody tells you, oh, you don't need no reference, that's cheating, they're an idiot. Do not listen to them. Every professional artist that I've ever met will tell you you need references. So look up references. There's nothing wrong with that. Be better if I went through my Google. There we go. View image, I need tab. There we go. So that's what I need. Boop-a-doop. Okay, so let me get my vehicle. Okay, so let's go right here. We got my trying to find a good way to display this where I can see the screen and the OBS is not crapping out. Okay, I think I got my layout working so I can look at it and it looks okay. Okay, got it. Okay, so if I go to previous drawings, he's right now hunched over. This is my horizon line. Okay, that's my vanishing point. Okay, so the vehicle will be somewhere around here, and he is originally standing by the door. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this easy and just do 1 point perspective. Okay, go down right there. And I'm going to use my ruler a lot for this. Okay, so these trucks tend to have this door. It's got to step up. So right here, that's one edge of the door. Then I have a window. I'm going to use this right here, and I'm probably going to go, it's going to be kind of sharp. No, I don't want to go too sharp, so I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Just going to make sure that makes sense. Okay, because the way this is set up is, here's the truck. Here is the table. Here is Ralph. And here's character 1, 2, 3. So that's what I'm tracking in my head when I'm figuring that shot out. And then the camera is somewhere right around here. So now I have to keep that background fit back there correctly. Okay. So, and I'm going to do lightly. I tend to do my vehicles in the background a little bit lighter than the stuff in the foreground for obvious reasons. It does have a pipe that comes out from the edge here. And that's pretty much where, the gases come out. And then it's got a, let me see, so if that's there, the bed of the truck will be somewhere around here. Okay, and then that's coming up right around there. Okay, so right around there. Okay. And I'm just doing the best that I can, guys, to draw this out. Let me kind of center that a little bit better. Okay, and then this right here is kind of one point perspective. Okay, and I said I do not consider myself a military expert in any form or shape. I'm just learning from references. So if any of my friends sees like, Anna, that looks like doo-doo, and I'm like, I'll make a point of that and try to correct it the next time. Okay, and it kind of comes up like this. Again, this is all from me looking at references. References will be your best friend always, even if you're drawing something that is not real. In fact, recently I learned something quite interesting while I was watching some of the the ArtStation interviews. There was a lady on there. She's pretty much done stuff for like Disney and Star Wars and all kinds of stuff. And she literally said almost all anatomy is based from human anatomy and horse anatomy. And I'm like, and I sat there for a moment. I thought about it, and I'm like, I'll be damned. She is right. A lot of creatures, if it's quadrupeds, it's based out of like horse-like creatures. If it's bipedal, they tend to base it on humanoid motion because they usually want to make something that is imaginary, but it seems kind of familiar, so it doesn't freak us out too much. As you can see by some of these games that have come out recently, some of them, they are really pushing the limit on how to freak us out by creating really obscure things that make no sense to our brain kind of content, and that's how you do it if that's what you're going for. Okay, so right here you got an edge. There we go. Just doing that right there. Okay, and let's give it some space. So for this one, let's say it's about, let's do 2 centimeters. And then for the next one, about 1.5 centimeters. So be right around here. Okay, so that's gonna go right there. By the way, I hope everybody's having a very quiet Memorial Day weekend. Please take a moment to stop and remember those who pay the ultimate price for freedom. I never say Happy Memorial Day because it's really not a happy event, and unfortunately people have forgotten because they have over what I call Hallmark the event, and people think it's about having a day off and barbecues. So like, no, really it's not. I know too many people that have lost people, and they're sitting in the cemetery this weekend visiting their loved ones that were taken away a little too soon. And so I hope you have a very peaceful Memorial Day weekend, and remember those that you cared about that took the ultimate plunge. But yep, let's go back here. Let's do that right there. And but it's not a political thing, by the way. I told you that service members run really deep in my family. So it's just more of a respect thing. It's not a, it's not a super thing. It's just the way I was brought up. Respect your service members. Okay, so right here, you got the truck. Now these trucks right here, they have the full covering, which is kind of like a tarp. So it pretty much kind of goes around. It's like a ring, and it's got a tarp, and it transports stuff on them. So that's pretty much what these will be doing on this one. So that's about centimeters will be right around there. Okay, so right around there. And I'm gonna do half. Alright, hit the headphones. Alright, and then right here I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to do this. Alright, this just kinda give me an idea to where to put these. Like I said, it's kind of like a tarp looking thing. See if I can find a good reference with the tarp. Yeah, it's just this tarp that it tends to go a little bit lower, but for the sake of sanity, this time around, I'm just gonna. I already drew some of these elements. I'm just gonna kind of do this. Sometimes you'll have to erase, and that's okay. As long as it gives it a sense of validity. Validity? Yeah. You know what I mean, that looks kind of believable. My English! Okay. So right there, there's the truck. And again, this to me, even though it's still there and it's visible, it just kind of gives the truck some depth. Then right here, this kind of continues down. There's usually like a gas tank down here, and then you're gonna start seeing the top of the first tire, because these are very big vehicles. I got the opportunity to visit a couple exhibits, and they'll have this military gear out there, and it's they look cool on TV and stuff, but it's not until you see them in person that it just kind of puts them in perspective for you. So they're very big, very bulky type vehicles. And I'm just going to use the little cheese or the little cross marks because I don't feel like drawing everything. It's probably something I will correct later on. Sorry, I did not mean to yawn so loudly. Okay, so that's right there. Okay, cool to the beans. Okay, cool. Alright. Goes right there. So that kind of gives me an idea. And like I said, this part right here is going to get covered. This part right here is going to have dialogue. Again, I'm not going to overstress. And then right here, that's a graphic. So I'm not going to add too much detail if it's going to get covered up. So I'm just kind of saving myself some steps because, again, what's the point of adding all that detail? It's going to be covered up anyway. So, yeah, just do enough. And, just plan accordingly. Like I said, I see people that put all this detail on their panels, and then once they put the speech bubble covered up. So, yeah, unless they're really making money off from their pencils, then I can see it at that point why to invest a little more time in it. But, don't mind me, I get in the midday sleepies. It's usually between 1 and 3 o'clock I want to go to sleep, but I kind of push through it. Okay. But if it's not going to be seen, why invest so much time in it? Makes sense, right? Makes total sense. Right here with the front of the door. Okay, and then we will see part of the front tire, the little lip thing right there. And now by adding that, and notice how my characters are still standing out before the truck. My characters are the focus, not the truck. So these guys, this is something that I like to do, where I like to make them more heavy line so they stand out. Again, it's just a me thing. I don't expect anybody else to like it. I personally like it. It causes no confusion of who the focus is, and it's just a personal style thing. And I'm going to push this out a little bit more. The only problem you got to be careful when you're doing this and you're pushing this out is that be careful not to snap the tip on your pencil. And that's another thing, guys. These Prismacolor pencils are really awesome and they're durable. But just like regular Prismacolor pencils, don't drop them. Because what happens is that the lead inside, when you drop them a lot, it can crack. So as you're drawing, you're like, oh, great, I got this new pencil. Sharp, 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 and the tip flies off. And then sharp, 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 and it flies off again. So Yeah, because it's already cracked on the inside. So take care of your supplies. You know, think of it like your cell phone. Unless you're one of those people that constantly drop your phone, then there's no hope for you. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, that's where you see me being so adamant about my supplies. Even though I keep mine in a little Ziploc bag, I actually make sure they stay really safe. Like I know I put them in a spot where they cannot be dropped. They are safely guarded. Even with the cats, I still make sure that they're not going to get messed up. So I do my best to take care of my gear. Always take care of your gear, especially if your gear is your livelihood. That goes for your computer, that goes for your Cintiq, that goes for your Wacom tablet. Whatever you're using, take care of your tools and it'll take care of you. Okay, sometimes they're super cheap, there's not much you can do about that, but for the most part, if you take care of your stuff, they'll take care of you. Okay, so that is now panel 1. It's got some nice depth to it, and back here, normally there's like trees or something, because they're like in this like cave area, and it's going to be really minute, because most of these I'm just going to do with color, and they're just going to be accents back here, and they're kind of like in this deserty area, so I not to worry about this too much back here. But now that the truck is in here, there seems to be more depth to the shot. And this still pushes my flow where my character is talking to these guys. The perspective is still pushing me towards these guys. And then this is pushing me back towards the dialogue right here to get pushed down here. You guys see how that's flowing now? Okay, so now let's go to the next one down here, panel 2, to draw that background. Again, I'm drawing the M939. It's the old heavy-duty vehicle. Just need a little swig. Woo! Man, I'm flying, and I think it's because I got you guys here to join me today, so not much time to pause. But this is getting me close to my old drawing time. Like I said, I used to do, at my fastest, was 2.5 pages per day. My medium is about like 1.5 pages, but it also depends on the amount of detail that I have to place on the page as well. So for me, I tend to work very economical. That's just coming from my animation background. We would get products and then we would not have a lot of time to do them, or the client simply did not have a lot of budget to do them. So we had to give them something that was slick, but it was not as time consuming, and yeah, so you kind of become a wizard on how to do some of these panels and stuff. Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward. So that's the door right here. The base of that door is right around here, and it's kind of like a curve. It's a curve right there. Okay, and let me double check myself to make sure I'm getting that right. No, it is not a curve. Okay, this is why I love reference images. Nope, it's not a curve. That's okay. And that's why you use reference image, kids. References. Okay, and it comes up. And then the door here has a handle. The handle's like a circle. And it looks like this. It looks like a modern accessibility door handle that you see at the schools. Yeah, not sure if you guys knew that the reason why they do these handles is if you have someone that has issues with their movements of their hand, they could still grab this and then pull down. Even if their hands are incapable of doing the curve motion, they could still kind of do this and they can open the doors. That's a ACA accessibility thing. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Okay, and then right here there's usually handle. And the handle comes pretty good way. Go ahead and save this. And again, I use a lot of references, but I try to memorize the vehicles. And even then, when I do memorize the vehicles, I still like using references because I'd rather be safe. Like right here, I thought this was curved. It was not. So I always like to double check, especially if it's drawing something that could be easily be recognized by people I always like to use my references. And even here, this small curve. Okay, so that's the door there. Most of the newer vehicles are tannish. The old ones tend to have the old classic Rambo military patterns to them. But all the new stuff is like desert sand, desert tan, or whatever it's called. Again, I'm still learning. My friends teach me a lot of stuff, and I love having them because they're my best friends and my worst enemies at the same time, because I'll put a lot of time and effort into something and then they'll correct me and I'm like, shit. Excuse my language. Poop. Oh, poop. So I'm like, I spent all this time drawing this just to get it really wrong. But, you know, I remember it next time. I remember not to do that same silly mistake and drawing something wrong. And boy, will they roast your butt if you draw something wrong. But I try. Okay, but it's always a learning experience. I appreciate their brutalness because without them, I will never improve. Like, already, my vehicles, this right here is drawn a lot faster than what I could the first time I tried to draw a vehicle. And it's just getting the basic gesture down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just close enough that people that have ever used this equipment can recognize it. And that, to me, if I could just show them something and they can name it without me saying a word, then I did my job. Okay, so that's the door. Okay, and then right here, this comes down. Okay, and from here I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not gonna even bother to draw the pattern on it. There's just no point. Excuse me. Oof. Okay, so this one I'm just gonna go ahead and go with a straight one, and this the bed is just a little bit higher than the door, not by much. It's just a little bit higher. So that's the door itself. That's the door itself, and then this is the edge of the frame. So this kind of lines up, the base of this lines up with the door slightly. Okay, so we got that, and then from here, and I probably need more space here. Let me see if I can find a side view, because that's what I need. I need a side view of this, because they always do 3/4 view. Side view. There we go. Side view. Okay, the side view is a little bit meatier than what I expected. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is got the pipe. And then, God bless you, Google. Google! There doesn't seem to be a lot of space there. I'm actually quite surprised. Okay, so there's the pipe, and then there seems to be just a little bit of a gap there. So nothing too crazy. Okay, more kids. Okay, then from here I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna draw that base lip. Okay, and then I have, this seems to be ones that's the closest. So we have one that goes up, and then there's a gap, and then it goes up again, and then it goes up again. So these seems to be the closest one. Hit the button, and then right here, then it starts putting the big gaps in between. So I'm gonna go for 1 incher right here, and then I'm gonna switch to 2 inchers. And again, this is just me, just analyzing based on the pictures. I don't have this vehicle in front of me, so I cannot do exact measurements. I'm pretty sure somewhere out there I can find the schematics for these vehicles, but this ain't that serious. It's just implying that these are these vehicles. Okay, and then normally the tarp starts coming down to around halfway through the door. So somewhere between the handle right there and down here. So I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to do this. Why overcomplicate things? And it's tarp, so it's got the thick, that, and then it probably's got the little rings. That's how they attach things down. Is it rings on that? Can't remember. Blah, 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 blah. Looks about right. It's little rings for rope or something. This a clip or something right here that they use to clamp this down to something. But for right now, I'm just gonna leave it like that. And then I'll come back and I'll research that. Yeah, that's what goes on in my head. Okay, so that's right there. Again, not trying to go too crazy with the detail because part of this is going to be covered with dialogue. Mainly coming right here, dialoguing over that. And sometimes the dialogue's really short, but then I'll go back and I'll add a little bit more. So I try to leave always leave yourself the space for, corrections. You don't want to go too crazy and then don't give yourself any chances to be able to improve the story as you go through. Okay, and then let me check out these doors. I think those doors for the doors. Okay, there's a little bit of a rim. Nothing too crazy. Okay, cool. Alright, so now that that's done, got some really nice depth here. He's clearly now, I'm trying to make sure that the character doesn't look like he has moved. So notice how I always kind of keeping him by the door. He's not in the middle of the truck and suddenly he's back here. He is not moved. So trying to make sure that the environment matches where the character's been the whole time. Sometimes people just try to get too action-packed and then they start drawing the background and I'm like, dude, when did your character move? I thought he was just sitting still. So I'm trying to make sure that I get used to drawing these vehicles from all kinds of different angles, all different areas. Okay. Like I said, I'll come back to this arm here, at least to fix the musculature there. This one seems kind of, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you just don't hit the mark the first time, and it will happen. But this is right here is coming along. I'm pretty happy how it's coming along. Like I said, I'm at 2 hours and 48 minutes. Panel right here requires 0 background because she's in the sky. But if I really want to get specific, happy cloud. Happy desert cloud. I'm going to put right here, clouds. Look at these happy, gorgeous clouds. So that way she's not floating into the void. There's something back there. Oh, excuse me, my bad. Into the void. Woo! Into the void. Again, everybody's different, guys. This is just my style. I do not claim that I am by all. No, never. I am the eternal student that will forever be second-guessing myself. But I do try to produce because I've unfortunately seen too many of my friends overthink their stuff and then they don't produce anything because they're just always overthinking. So just try, try to do something. And if you fail, okay, you know what, you failed this time. So how can I learn from that failure? And what did I learn from that failure? You learn a lot more from failing at something than you do at succeeding at something. And people ask me, it's like, Anna, why do you know so much weird stuff about Photoshop? And I was like, well, not only have I been using it for 20 years, but I also taught it for 8 years. And let me tell you, you will learn real quick the insides and out of the software when you're an instructor, because your students will find ways to break that software in ways that you had no idea it was possible. So I have not just learned from my failures, I've learned from my students' failures, and I learned how to work around and fix certain things. So if you really want to improve at at what you're doing, take the time, experiment. A lot of people are so scared of experimenting, they just kind of go what they know. And I've seen so many sketchbooks that it's just they just draw what they know, and they don't use the sketchbook for what it should be used, which is experimenting. You're supposed to experiment. If you're not good at watercolor, try watercolor. If you're not good at drawing people, then draw people. If you're not good at drawing weapons, then draw weapons. That's the kind of stuff that you want to do in your sketchbook. And it's just people goofing off doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it'll be one thing if you're practicing, which is good to practice, and then you're adding ideas onto that book. But I don't even see people doing that. Yeah. So use your sketchbook as your tool, Use it as a way to experiment. Use it as a way to fail in private if you're too scared to fail in front of other people. I myself, I'll be the first one to tell you, I will do something and I bomb and I just laugh about it. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally misunderstood a project, and it happens. But instead of me getting frustrated, I just laugh it off, and then I correct myself as best as I can. And there's been a few times where it could be because I'm fatigued, or I got something else going on that's like it's really rare, but I just don't hit the mark, and it's very rare. People that work with me know that if I'm not hitting the mark on something, it's because I'm distracted with something else. Something else is going on, and so now they know how to talk to me and work with me and stuff. And it happens, artists are very emotional people. Not always, but we tend to be. Our creativity comes from our emotions. So I've had to bottle up a lot of things. So if I'm ever having a rough time, it's because it's really, really bad. So. Okay, so right here, there's her, and then right here is V from the Hellion Rider. There's a point in the story where she has to come back and get him. So that's what's going on right here. So these are going to be really tiny people down here. And right here, move the mouse, me press the button. Okay, you have V writing, and it's kind of like the motorcycles where you ride with your feet out, but it's kind of backwards. It's like your arms are out. And again, a lot of this cleanup. Unfortunately, there's some times where I have to draw so tiny, and I can just do the tiny impression with my pencil, and then I have to go into Photoshop and actually clean this out. It's gonna happen. I'm not that worried about it. I've used the mix between both. So there we go. So there's V writing the Hellion. Okay, and then here's part of the back of the seat. Got his bag here. Press the button. There's no way I can draw features, but that's him writing. And the Hellion has a very unique shield system that only activates at certain points in the storyline. And it's mainly done with color. But I'm gonna try it this time for sanity. Again, it's the future-ish, but they still got old tech laying around. And what's really awesome is that with V's powers, V's very strong. He's ridiculously strong. But because he wants to look cool, at first you're like, oh, okay, he's barely, he has some skills, got it, whatever, not so bad. But then later on, you're like, wait, if he could do that this whole time, why on earth? Oh, God, here comes these fucking spammers. Ugh. Get off my chat. Block. Block. Okay, how do I block you? Really wish I could just block this crap. Block you. Demon, be gone. Settings, nope. Ugh, annoying. They really need to just make this so you like right click on the chat and you tell them to mood view, chat settings. I don't want to clear the chat. I just hate these spammers, man. It's just freaking ridiculous. Excuse my language. It's like, why can't I just right click and then block? There we go. Ban, you're banned. There we go. Right click. And you're banned. Be gone. Yeah. One for the win. Yeah, I don't like spammers. I really don't. It's like, dude, go away. Go away. And the worst part is the reason they keep coming back is because, they'll grab someone who desperately wants to be famous overnight. I'm like, no, dude, don't do it. Don't freaking do it. Stop giving these spammers. Yeah, just don't do it. Anyway, so he's traveling through the desert. It looks like it's frying her face. But again, it's totally cool. It's mainly, this right here is mainly just like dust and stuff. But they're going very fast. They really are. So I need to put like, what's that called? Motion lines. Showing that they're going in this direction. And what this does is when it comes down, it's going to go over here. And then there's dialogue. I'm just going to go to the next page. Oh my God, I need to wake up. Okay, so we got that right there. It just keeps going. Yeah, don't mind me, guys. I'm just old, and I still get up at like, even on the weekends, I still get up between 4 and 5 a.m. to go work out. Today I slept in and woke up at 6. I know, right? Just devastating. I still went to work out. I didn't do anything too extravagant because it's technically a rest day. So I just did my little spin cycle. I needed to do a couple errands in town. My gym's right around the corner from town, so I just kind of just did the spin cycle, and then I just kind of just chill and, got a little wedding gift for a good friend of mine that got married. It's a book by, he's young. He's really young kid. He's my neighbor's son. Super nice guy. And I got him a book. It's called Susie Elsman, The Young, the Fabulous, and the Broke. And I tell you that as an artist, spin cycle. Yeah, I did the spin cycle. As an artist, we are known not to be the most financial stable people on the planet. Hence the starving artist thing. So I made sure at an early age to force myself on my own, because my family was not very supportive, to learn financial independence. So him and his lady are really young, so I bought him this great book, and it talks about your FICO score. It's practically a financial book for broke people. Like if you're a broke college student or you're just starting off, it's like, oh, here's what credit cards are, and here's what a FICO score is, and here's what this and that. And till today, I'm not gonna say that I'm super financially stable. Like I'm doing really good, So better than most of my friends. I got savings and stuff, but I credit that book to today because it was such a good read that taught me some of the basics. Like, here's why you want to keep your credit intact. Here's how you keep your credit intact. Here's what this type of rate is. So it's a good book. So if you guys get a chance, check it out. Susie Elsman, the Young, the Fabulous, and the Broke. I suggest it to some adults that still don't know what a budget is. So I'm not getting paid for that. I just really like the book, and I still credit my freedom to that because I learned a lot from that book. If I ever have a book that I like, Money Facts with Anna, brought to you by. Yeah, yeah. Don't buy stupid crap, kids. My first financial advice came from Scrooge McDuck. Believe it or not, I know you can laugh at me. And he literally said this was on the old DuckTales show, and he goes, "You don't become rich by spending your money." And I'm like, touche. Touche, Mr. Duck. Touche. Alright, so that was my original financial advisor from a cartoon duck. Okay, so here is Helen, and again, this is something I'm gonna have to go back in and I'm gonna have to clean up in Photoshop because, as you can see, this is regular pencil, it's not a mechanical pencil. So it's a little harder to get some of those details when it's this tiny. So I can just draw the gesture of it and then I can really clean it up when I go into Photoshop and then zoom in and do what I need to do. So right here, she's riding, they're going to the desert, and they're going, and they're still going. And they got a chair, and there's V. And then there's dust. That's what that is. There's dust right here with the writing. And you're going to see like certain rock structures as they're going by. It will be this direction. It's a trick to this. I can't remember. So there they go this direction, but this is going that direction. That's what it is. Yeah, so these guys are moving forward. This is going the opposite way. Yeah, you can actually buy the lead by itself. I just haven't gone around to it. I know, I'm lazy. I keep ordering crap for my cats, and I keep forgetting to order my art supplies. Priorities. Cute little cats. All right, so probably what I could do for these backgrounds. So if, let's say this is like a stone. Yeah, I'm not a crazy cat lady yet. I only have 2. You don't reach crazy cat lady status until you have what, 7? Or is it 3? I don't know. I mean, you got 4, so technically you're a cat daddy. So right here, they go right into the desert. You want to add some texture. Don't you jinx me like that. But okay, so a lot of this desert landscape here, like I said, I tend to draw this stuff really light because I tend to do a lot of this with Photoshop once I get in there. Let's say this right here is like a ridge of rocks. And you see those where they look like an arch. Doesn't look like much from the top view, but technically when you're from the top view, it doesn't look like a lot. And let's say like the light source is coming from this direction. And it's gonna be light, guys. I'm not that crazy with the details for the background because most of it, this I'm gonna erase in Photoshop. And then I'm just going to rebuild in Photoshop with like some nice grains to give it that rock look. Same thing right here. Maybe I'll draw a cactus here. Which is funny because technically the story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. Most of Florida sank. So, and then parts of Florida now is a desert. And you'll see like famous landmines, like they'll drive by Ponciana at one point. You have Orlando. They reference Kissimmee. So if you're an Orlando kid, you know some of these references. But it's post-apocalyptic, so like all the original landmarks. So this one point that they're in the Orlando airport post the apocalypse, and so they'll have like all the environments. They'll have like except for snow, because it's post-apocalypse, so there's no snow. But they'll have like a jungle section, and they'll have like a swamp section. They'll have like a decrepit city section. All right. So, whew, okay. That's a lot of drawing. That's actually pretty good. I did this whole page in 3 hours. So that's pretty good. So let's go back in and review. That's pretty much that's where I'm done for today. So we started with the script. There's me working the thumbnails. I already had an idea and I just pretty much just refined it a little bit. So when I started talking about the flow going down through the page. And then from here, we started just roughing out the basic volume for the characters on each one of the panels. Right here, there's going to be a graphic. Like I said, I don't put everything down on pencil. There's some things that I do digitally later on. So I pretty much roughed out the characters very, very lightly. You can see right there the light blue pencil in the area there. So once we did that, I went back in, I cleaned them out. But I'm also keeping track of my perspective points as I'm doing these. So right here, there's my horizon line, and then there's my vanishing point right here. So characters are set once they were set, and again, I keep track of this in the back of my mind, how these backgrounds are going to look to continue to help the flow. I drew the M939 military vehicle back here, and then I drew it again here, because again, you want to draw him by the door, so that way this won't look like he's moving around. Then right here, she's in the sky. These right here are implying clouds, just very like the deserty kind of cloud things right there. And then it goes down to the bottom. So to review the flow, we're going to have a caption right here. This is once this is colored. So caption goes here, so literally a little block that says, moments later. So very small caption. Right here, my character is facing the guys here. And notice how my truck or my perspective on my truck has continued to push me reading from left to right. There's going to be a graphic here that I'm going to add in Photoshop. It's going to be
Auto shutdown initiated.
Gosh darn it, I went so long with
Auto
that.
shutdown cancelled.
I've got to figure that out today. Yeah, this has been bugging me all day, so sorry. Okay, then there's going to be a graphic right here. And I don't want to go too into it because I'm going to add like a building or something digitally. And then you got the guys listening to him. This is Ralph. This is incidental character 1, 2, and 3. Both of these are my old college mates, Felice and Jeremy. So I brought them back from book 2 into book 5 because they're part of the crew. And then they're going to be looking at him, and then the speech bubbles are going to lead you down to the next panel right here. Notice how these lines continue to move you down. So we see the character. He's still on the left side of the page because you've got the 180 rule. Character that starts on the left, stay on the left. You don't want to bounce him to the right because it disorients your audience. So right here, he's talking. Notice how he's still facing this direction. So when I add the dialogue right here, the dialogue will continue, and then the lines here will continue to push me down to the engine of my bootleg Rocketeer. God, I need to rewatch that movie. My bootleg Rocketeer, who is flying through the sky. And this is something that I personally love. I love breaking the panels. I love just breaking the panels because it really forces you clearly to the next panel down, and there's no question about it. It's just a personal style. So right here, she is talking on her crazy early 2000s Nokia phone headset or whatever you want to call it. So from there, this continues to push me down. And the dialogue right here will also continue to push me down to down here where we see the angle. It's an overhead shot of the same character looking down as she continues to pretty much accent what's happening, where she's saying, I made contact and I found the two people she was looking for, which is them down here at the bottom. And this will continue if I keep the shadow. Her direction, their direction, and their dialogue will push me off to the next page, which will push me to read the following page, which will be in this case page 19. So I appreciate you guys joining me. Like I said, this was pretty good. 3 hours for a full page from nothing. I'm slowly getting my speed back, but at least you guys can kind of see my process as I go through these, what I'm thinking about. It's kind of hard for me to talk to stuff sometimes, but at least you kind of have an idea of how my process goes and why I keep things the way that I do. But yeah, that is it. That is it. But I'm going to take pretty much a pause, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to try to do more of these. Like I said, I'm sorry the camera's fuzzy, guys. It's my first time doing this on just kind of drawing. I still need to finish out the flamingo. I know I keep promising to doing it. I've been doing so much digital that I just don't even want to look at Photoshop when I get home because I'm just so tired of staring at a monitor. At least for that kind of stuff. It feels like I'm at work at home. But what I'm probably going to do is either play Tomb Raider or the Witcher game or one of my older games a little bit later here. I did play yesterday Humans Fall Flat. That was actually kind of interesting. I played with a couple friends, and yeah, I might play Deep Rock Galactic. I don't know. I'll just play something. But yeah, I just want to show you guys my process, and hopefully you guys appreciate it. I'll try to do another page in the future, but yeah, I welcome any feedback, any improvements. If you guys, like I said, I'll keep working on my microphone, definitely on my headsets. And let me zoom out so you guys can see the final full version of this. Come on, camera, stay with me. All right, so that is pretty much my page as best as I can in a nutshell. So, but anyway, guys, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. I'll see into getting some music. I know there's a couple of YouTube channels that have music that are royalty free. I'm just a little too scared to use it because, again, I don't want to get strikes and I don't want to do a whole page just for it to be muted. So right now I'm going to see what I can use to put something in the background so it's not just dead silence and you guys listening to my headsets going, shutting down, shutting down, shutting down. But, but that's it. Full page, 3 hours. I feel very accomplished and I appreciate you guys, chilling with me. And I'll talk to you later. So you guys take care. All right. Bye.